Chapter 28:37. Requesting to see Lord Mo. Is this the Dragon Phoenix sacred city? Jian Wushuang looked around with a faint smile on his face. Whoosh! He turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. The red-armored soldiers guarding the space passage did not stop him, because he had been guided by Yin Sewer. Jian Wushuang soon found the place where Lord Mo lived after he came to the Dragon Phoenix sacred city. It was a huge group of volcanoes. The whole group of volcanoes was surrounded by endless flames all year round. The air was extremely hot, and the ground and the sky were red. However, in the center of this group of volcanoes, there was a huge castle. This huge castle was where the #1 refiner of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow lived. This huge scarlet castle was completely covered by a magic array, and around the magic array there were many cultivators waiting there. Those cultivators were not very strong. There were Earth Divine Masters and Sky Divine Masters, as well as Great Divine Masters, but there were very few of them. They stood in an orderly manner, waiting to enter the castle. So many people. Jian Wushuang appeared in the void outside the castle, looking at the long dragon at the entrance. His expression could not help but change. At this time, whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The person who came was wearing the same armor and had a cold expression. He was the guard of the giant castle. However, even though he was just a guard, his aura had reached the level of a junior Great Divine Master. A Great Divine Master is actually a guard here. Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. May I know who you are? What brings you to our Fire Cloud Castle? The guard asked. Although it was just a question, his tone was a little arrogant. This was normal. Fire Cloud Castle was personally founded by Lord Mo, not only in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, but also in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. It had a very high status. Usually, there were many great divine masters who came to see it. There were even many immortal saints. This guard had seen too many of them. When he faced the immortal saints, he was in awe. When he faced the invincible divine masters and peak divine masters, he was very humble and polite. However, when he faced Jian Wushuang, he saw that Jian Wushuang only had the aura of an advanced great divine master. His attitude became colder. "I'm here to see Lord Mo," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. As expected, the guard was not surprised at all. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and asked, "What's your name, and which realm are you from?" "Sword 1, from the Pill Sun's sacred world," Jian Wushuang replied. "Sword 1." The guard shook his head. Obviously, he had never heard of him, but he still said, "Wait here for a moment. I'll go and inform you." "Thank you." Jian Wushuang thanked him slightly. The guard immediately went into the castle to report. In the depths of the giant castle, in a magnificent palace, a middle-aged man in a purple robe sat upright with a smile, holding a cup of tea in his hand. "Sir." The guard came to the front of the middle-aged man and said respectfully, "A man called Sword 1 came from outside and asked to see the castle lord." "Sword 1." The purple-robed middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and tried to recall the name in his mind, but he had never heard of him. This was normal. Jian Wushuang's rise was too short. He had reached such an achievement in just a few decades. He was only very famous in the Pill Sun's sacred world and the Heavenly Void world, but he was not very famous in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. Therefore, not many people had heard of him. "What realm is this person at?" the purple-robed, middle-aged man asked. "He's an advanced great divine master." The guard replied, He's just a mere advanced great divine master. I've never even heard of him before. Clearly, he doesn't have any great background. He actually wants to seek an audience with the master. How ridiculous." The purple-robed, middle-aged man sneered. Then he waved his hand. The visitor is a guest. Let junior brother Fan Xian receive him. Yes. The guard immediately left. The purple-robed, middle-aged man still had a smile on his face, but his eyes were looking at a young man who was wearing luxurious woolen clothes. His face was cold and stern, and he had a dignified bearing. "I'm sorry, young Master Chu. You must have made a fool out of me." "Haha, not at all. Fire Cloud Castle is the residence of the #1 refiner master in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. There are naturally many people who come to visit. Chuyun should have an eye-opening experience today." The young man also had a smile on his face. He even gave a few simple compliments. "Young Master Chu, I already know the purpose of your visit. Moreover, the reward you offered is indeed very high. This shows that you are indeed very sincere. However, the thing you want can only be refined by my master personally. However, you should have heard of my master's temper." The purple-robed, middle-aged man glanced at the young man. He smiled. "If you want the old man to personally refine it, not only do you need to pay a sufficient price, you also need to look at his mood. If he is in a good mood, he might agree to help you refine it. But if he is in a bad mood, no matter how much you pay him, I'm afraid he won't help you. I know this. Hence, Mr. Please help me put in a few good words in front of Lord Mo after all. Chu Yun will remember it in his heart." The young man said, "Haha, that's easy to say. Although it's the first time I've met you, I've known Realm Lord Jo Chu for many years. Naturally, I know what to do," the purple-robed, middle-aged man said with a smile. "Thank you, sir," the young man said with a smile. He was in a great mood. Outside the castle, Sword 1. The guard appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. "I've reported your request, and Lord Fan Xian has agreed to meet you. Come with me." "Lord Fan Xian, who is that?" Jian Wushuang asked. "He is one of the 6 in-name disciples of our fort master. He has a very high position in Fire Cloud Castle," the guard said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help being stunned. He knew that it would not be easy to meet Lord Mo, but he did not expect that he would be so unpopular. Back then, Yin Suer had come here to seek an audience for the sake of selling the blood-desolate Emperor crystals. Although she had not met Lord Mo, she had at least met Lord Mo's personal disciple. Furthermore, she had the personal disciple's transmission token. However, the person who had come to greet him was only an in-name disciple. The difference between an in-name disciple and a personal disciple was not small. It was very obvious that the person who had come to receive him in Fire Cloud Castle was someone who looked at his status and status. When he saw that he was only a high-level great divine lord and that he was not famous, he had casually sent an in-name disciple to receive him. Chapter 2838. 10,000 kilograms of Blood Wilderness Emperor essence. If I had known, I would have asked Yin Suer to say hello for me. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly, but he still followed the guard into the castle. On the way, Jian Wushuang looked at the long line at the entrance and could not help asking, "Sir, what do these people do?" The guard sneered and said, "They are some blacksmiths from different realms. There are blacksmiths of different levels. There are 3rd or 4th grade blacksmiths, 5th or even 6th grade blacksmiths. They come here with only one purpose, which is to become apprentice blacksmiths in Fire Cloud Castle." Apprentice? Why are apprentices so popular? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Of course, although they are just apprentices, they still have the chance to see the scene of top blacksmiths refining weapons. If they are lucky, they might even be chosen by the castle lord and become his in-name disciples. That would be great. The guard continued. The castle lord now has a total of 1 personal disciple and 6 in-name disciples. except for that personal disciple. The other 6 unnamed disciples are all chosen from apprentices. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. He followed the guard into the castle and came to a side hall. Wait here. Lord Fan Xian is receiving a supreme divine master. He will come to see you when he is done. The guard said, Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him. The guard left quickly, while Jian Wushuang waited quietly in the side hall. After waiting for 4 hours, a middle-aged man with a big belly finally came to the side hall. You must be Sword One, right? The middle-aged man was only a peak divine master, but he stood in front of Jian Wushuang without any respect or humility. On the contrary, he had a lofty attitude. Thanks, these blacksmiths are really arrogant. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart, but he still smiled on the surface. It's me. You must be Mr. Fan Xian, right? Sit. The middle-aged man, Fan Xian, who was one of Lord Mo's unnamed disciples, waved his hand. Jian Wushuang immediately sat down beside him. Are you here to see Master? Fan Xian glanced at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Haha, my master is the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. There are too many people who come to see him. He doesn't have the time to meet so many people. Therefore, those who come to see him are usually received by us disciples. Unless some very high-ranking people come to see him in person, my master will personally receive them. So, if you have something to say, just tell me directly. Fan Xian said. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He knew that it would be unrealistic for him to meet Lord Mo directly, so he had to go through Fan Xian. To tell you the truth, I'm here today because I hope that Lord Mo can personally refine another magic weapon for me, Jian Wushuang said. Ask Master to refine a magic weapon? Fan Xian looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise and could not help but smile. Sword One, you're only an advanced great divine master, right? With your strength, the magic weapon you use is only a superior divine treasure. Even if you have a lot of treasures and want to make a divine treasure, there are others in my Fire Cloud Castle who can do it. Why do you need my master to do it personally? No, the magic weapon I want to make can only be made by Lord Mo himself, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. My master must make it himself. Fan Xin's expression changed, but then he said in a deep voice, Sword One, my master is the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It's not easy for him to make the magic weapon, and it will cost a lot of money. I know. When I came here, I asked around. If you want Lord Mo to make it himself, the price must be no less than 300,000 holy elixirs. Am I right? Jian Wushuang said. Well, can you afford 300,000 holy elixirs? Fan Xian looked at him. I don't have any ready-made holy elixirs, but I do have treasures that are worth more than 300,000 holy elixirs. Jian Wushuang smiled, and then took out the last piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was about the size of an adult and weighed more than 10,000 pounds. However, Jian Wushuang held it in his hand easily and weighed it casually. Mr. Fan Xian, do you recognize this crystal in my hand? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. This is Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Fan Xian, who was sitting casually on the chair, suddenly stood up. He looked at the crystal in Jian Wushuang's hand with a trace of shock. Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was one of the most important materials for refining holy treasures. As a weapon refiner, he had been dealing with all kinds of weapon refining materials all year round. How could he not recognize it? How heavy is such a big piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Fan Xian exclaimed. I estimated that this Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal should weigh 12,000 pounds. On the market, 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is worth 100 holy elixirs. Moreover, it's priceless. Am I right? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Fan Xian could not help but gulp. What Jian Wushuang said was naturally true. Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals were very rare and precious. 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was more than enough to sell 100 saint elixirs. If they met people who needed it, 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal could sell for 200 saint elixirs. But 12,000 pounds of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals, even if it was 100 saint elixirs per pound, it was still 2 million saint elixirs. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary immortal saint who was not good at accumulating wealth would only have 500,000 to 600,000 saint elixirs. Many immortal saints could not afford 2 million saint elixirs. But now, Miss Fan Xian, I wonder if my Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is worth 300,000 saint elixirs. Can I ask Master Mo to help me? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The price is enough, but I don't know if I can ask the master to help me. Fan Xin's face had become extremely serious, and her attitude toward Jian Wushuang had obviously changed. Mr. Sword One, please wait here for a moment. I'll report this matter to Senior Brother Bai Yin and ask him to see you in person. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Judging from Fan Xin's tone, Jian Wushuang knew that Bai Yin was the only personal disciple under Lord Mo. If he wanted to see Lord Mo, he had to go through Bai Yin. Then I'll wait here. Jian Wushuang smiled and put the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal into his interspatial ring. Chapter 2839. The lowest threshold in the main hall of the castle. Lord Mo's personal disciple, Bai Yin was casually chatting with the imposing young man. At this moment, Fan Xian walked in and whispered a few words into Bai Yan's ear. Bai Yan's expression immediately changed, and he became a little surprised. Then he stood up and said apologetically, Master Chu, I have something to take care of. Please wait here for a moment. No problem. The young man waved his hand, indicating that he did not care. Bai Yin immediately walked toward the side hall with Fan Xian. When they arrived at the side hall, Bai Yin immediately saw Jian Wushuang, who was waiting quietly. Ha! You must be Mr. Sword One, right? Bai Yin smiled and spoke in a gentle tone. Sword One greets Mr. Bai Yin. Jian Wushuang bowed slightly. Bai Yin was capable of becoming Lord Mo's personal disciple. Jian Wushuang did not know about his weapon refining level, but his strength was not weak. He had already reached the level of a divine master at the peak. He was much stronger than Fan Xian, who was only at the peak of the divine master realm. I heard that you came here to ask Master to refine a magic weapon, and you also brought a 10,000-pound Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Bai Yin looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took out the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Bai Yan's vision was much higher than Bai Yan's. With just a glance at the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, he could instantly tell that it was a genuine Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Moreover, based on the size of the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal should weigh about 12,000 kilograms. Bai Yan's eyes immediately lit up. Junior Brother Fan Xian, you can leave first. I'll have a good chat with Mr. Sword One. Bai Yan instructed. Yes. Fan Xian nodded. He looked at the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal with a burning gaze, but he still left directly. Only Jian Wushuang and Bai Yan were left in the side hall. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is one of the main materials used to refine holy treasures. It's extremely rare. Usually, it's rare to see a Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that weighs more than 100 kilograms, and it requires a great opportunity. But the blood wilderness emperor crystal in your hand weighs more than 10,000 kilograms. Bai Yan could not help but sigh. As a weapon refiner, what he yearned for the most were rare weapon refining materials. Last time, Een Sewer came to him and sold him a piece of blood wilderness emperor crystal that weighed 230 caddies, which made him quite happy. Now, the blood wilderness emperor crystal weighed more than 10,000 caddies. Even he could not help but feel ecstatic. Mr. Sword One, the blood wilderness emperor crystal in your hand is extremely valuable. If you are willing, you can sell it to my fire cloud castle. I can buy it for 20 sane elixirs, more than the market price. Your piece of blood wilderness emperor crystal weighs 12,000 caddies, so you can get 1,440,000 sane elixirs for it. It'll give you another 10,000 sane elixirs. How about 1,450,000 sane elixirs? Bai Yan said. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had to admit that Bai Yan was very generous and offered a very high price. Of course, this was mainly related to the great wealth of the Fire Cloud Castle. With the #1 refiner in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there were too many people who came to Fire Cloud Castle to ask for refining weapons. Every time they refined weapons, Fire Cloud Castle could get a huge commission. After so many years of accumulation, the wealth of Fire Cloud Castle was terrifying. Perhaps the wealth of Fire Cloud Castle was not as rich as the 4 pavilions, but it was not much worse. Mr. Bai Yan, Mr. Fan Xian should have told you just now. My purpose here is not to sell the Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal, but to ask Lord Mo to personally refine my magic weapon for me, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. I heard about it from junior brother Fan Xian, but with all due respect, I'm afraid it's difficult for you to ask Master to refine your magic weapon for you. Bai Yan said. Why? Jian Wushuang asked. To tell you the truth, Master has a very strange temper. Even if he wants to refine a magic weapon, it depends purely on his mood and preferences. As for the so-called 300,000 holy elixirs, it's just a minimum threshold set by the Master. His purpose is to stop some unnecessary visitors, but it's just a minimum threshold. Even if you achieve it, it doesn't mean that Master will definitely refine a magic weapon for you. Right now, besides you, there's another person in Fire Cloud Castle. His father is a world overlord, and he brought 300,000 sacred elixirs to ask the Master to refine a special treasure for him. But I think Master will ignore him, Bai Yan explained. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but be speechless. He could understand the hidden meaning behind Bai Yan's words. Even the young master of a world lord took out 300,000 sane elixirs, but Lord Mo ignored him. He had no background and was only an advanced great divine master. How could he be taken seriously by Lord Mo? If that's the case, how can I ask Lord Mo to help me? Jian Wushuang asked. 300,000 sane elixirs is the minimum requirement for the master to refine magic weapons or treasures. Secondly, it depends on the identity of the other party. If it's the immortal saint, my master will give him some face. If it's the powerful immortal saint, my master will give him a warm welcome. Long ago, Lord Bone Emperor personally visited my master and asked me to refine a treasure for him. When Lord Bone Emperor comes, my master will not dare to neglect him, Bai Yan said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. Bone Emperor was the strongest expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Who would dare to not give him face? Of course, Lord Mo would not dare to. It was obvious that Lord Mo's refining of treasures was largely determined by his strength and identity. This was normal. In the primordial divine world, experts were respected wherever they went. Only experts would receive sufficient respect. Other than that, there's another possibility that Master can personally take action. That is, the other party can take out a treasure that even my master is interested in, or the treasure that he refined has a certain degree of challenge to my master. Master will also take action. Bai Yen continued, the blood wilderness emperor crystal that you are taking out is indeed very valuable. It is much more than the entire wealth of many immortal saints. However, with all due respect, even if you give this blood wilderness emperor crystal to master, he might not be interested. At his level, there aren't many treasures in the Golden Crow 9 realms that can truly make him interested. Chapter 2840. Shock. As for the treasure that my master can refine, it's also very rare in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. The last time it appeared, it was the treasure that Lord Bone Emperor asked my master to refine. The treasure that you asked my master to refine shouldn't be of a higher level than the treasure that Lord Bone Emperor refined, right? Bai Yen teased. Hearing Bai Yan's words, Jian Wushuang's expression became a little strange. However, he could understand that Lord Mo was the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. With such a high level of craftsmanship and great strength, he naturally would not take ordinary items seriously. Although the Blood Wilderness Emperor essence was rare and precious, there were still many in the Fire Cloud Castle. As for the sacred elixir, the Fire Cloud Castle did not lack it. It was too difficult to impress Lord Mo with just a piece of the Blood Wilderness Emperor essence. If I can't impress him with the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, I might have to rely on that thing. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, but he had already made up his mind. Mr. Bai Yen, in addition to the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, I have a special item that Lord Mo might be interested in, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh, do you have a treasure that is more valuable and rare than the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Bai Yen looked over in surprise. Jian Wushuang did not say anything. He slowly reached out his hand, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. There was a drop of boiling hot, bright red liquid in the jade bottle. Is this essence blood? Bai Yen sensed the liquid in the jade bottle and was stunned. Show me the essence blood. Jian Wushuang handed the jade bottle to Bai Yen without hesitation. Bai Yen took the jade bottle and began to examine the drop of blood essence. It's so pure, so pure. Although the strength of the blood essence is not very strong and its owner is not a high-level divine master, his bloodline is terrifyingly high. The blood essence is so pure that it is at least 1,000 times higher than that of a normal human cultivator. Such pure blood essence, those top-tier beasts, fierce beasts, and even some of the top-tier bloodlines in the absolute beginning divine realm can't have it. Only one kind of existence can have this kind of blood essence, and that is the special life forms born in the vast, absolute beginning divine realm. Those innately powerful and unique special life forms. Bai Yan's eyes were shining with excitement, and his body was shaking violently. After a long while, he looked at Jian Wushuang again. Mr. Sword One, how did you get this essence blood? Bai Yen asked, I found it by chance, but I wonder if this essence blood can interest your master, Mo. Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Yes, absolutely. Bai Yen nodded solemnly. This is the essence blood of a special life form. The number of special life forms in the absolute beginning divine realm is pitifully few. I've never heard of any special life form in the Golden Crow 9 realms or in the surrounding great realms. It's like ascending to heaven to get a drop of the essence blood of a special life form in the territory near the Golden Crow 9 realms. Master has always longed for a drop, but he only had extravagant hopes. He didn't expect that today. At this point, Bai Yen could no longer hold back his excitement. He took a deep breath in a deep voice. He said, Mr. Sword One, can I bring this drop of essence blood to meet Master personally? I can guarantee that Master will meet you personally and refine a magic weapon for you. Sure. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. Please wait here for a moment, Bai Yan said, and then rushed to the deepest part of the castle. Jian Wushuang continued to wait in the side hall. It's really troublesome to report to Master Mo one by one. Jian Wushuang sat there, feeling helpless, but there was also a strange smile on his face. Such a drop of essence blood has shocked Bai Yan so much. If I take out the complete essence blood, wouldn't he go crazy? Jian Wushuang felt it was funny. He had prepared the drop of essence blood for Bai Yan in advance. The essence blood naturally did not come from some so-called special life form, but from him, a perfect chaotic creature. Of course, it was not his most complete essence blood, but his own essence blood, which he diluted and decomposed. It was only obtained after decomposing a full 100 parts. In other words, he had decomposed his complete essence blood into a full 100 drops, and he had just given one drop to Bai Yan. After decomposing 100 parts, the purity of this drop of essence blood was actually only 1% of his perfect chaotic creature's complete essence blood, or even less than 1%. Even so, it still made the Jade Flame so shocked. But Jian Wushuang's most complete essence blood was really amazing. The deepest part of the Fire Cloud Castle was at the bottom of a volcano. The crimson space was extremely hot, and the ground was so hot that it was scarlet red. A naked silver-haired elder held a farm axe in his hand and directly chopped it. Kacha, a piece of firewood in front of him, was split in half. The silver-haired old man threw the split firewood into the sea of fire in front of him. Then he picked up the second piece of firewood and struck out with his axe again. The silver-haired old man was rather thin and weak. His skin was dark, and he did not look like he had much strength. However, as he struck out with his axe, the firewood made of mystical wood was easily split in half. The silver-haired old man continued chopping firewood, one after another. At this moment, the purple-robed middle-aged man, Bai Yan, hurriedly appeared in the crimson-red space. When he saw the silver-haired old man chopping firewood, Bai Yan would normally obediently stand by the side and wait. He would only speak when the silver-haired old man stopped to rest. However, he immediately spoke. "Master, this disciple has an urgent matter." The silver-haired old man, who was chopping with the axe, paused for a moment before continuing to chop down. Kacha, another piece of firewood, was chopped off. Following that, the silver-haired old man leaned on the axe and turned around to look at Bai Yan. "Speak." He spoke softly. His voice was cold and emotionless, but it was extremely majestic. "Master, I have brought something. Please take a look." Bai Yan did not waste any words and directly took out the jade bottle. When the silver-haired old man, who originally had a cold expression, saw the jade bottle, or more accurately, the drop of blood essence in it, his pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 2841. Blood essence of a special life form. This purity is the blood essence of a special life form. The silver-haired older man suddenly raised his head, and his eyes shone with an unprecedented light. "Yes, it's the blood essence of a special life form that you've been longing for, Master." Bai Yan smiled. "Quick, bring it over for me to take a look." The silver-haired older man appeared incomparably excited. Bai Yan immediately brought the jade bottle to the silver-haired older man. After the silver-haired older man received it, he began to observe it. "It's too pure. This blood essence is too pure. It's far more powerful than the blood essence of the two top bloodlines that I've obtained before. Such pure blood essence is definitely from a special life form. But, moreover, even if it's a special life form, it should be one of the stronger ones. It's definitely not an ordinary one. The silver-haired older man carefully looked at the blood essence in the jade bottle. It was as if he was looking at a treasure in the eyes of an extremely high-level refiner. The most precious things were no different from the materials used to refine divine weapons and treasures. And to refine an extremely high-level divine weapon or treasure, to a large extent, some blood essence was needed. The higher the level of the blood essence, the better. Once upon a time, this silver-haired older man had obtained 2 drops of blood essence from a top-tier bloodline race, as if he had obtained a precious treasure. However, those 2 drops of blood essence were nothing compared to the blood essence of a special life form. What was special about a special life form was something that the world had given birth to on its own. Every type of life form was unique. Even in the vast, absolute beginning divine realm, there were too few of such life forms. It wasn't easy to reach the sky to obtain the blood essence of these special life forms. The silver-haired older man had always longed for a drop, but now, without any warning, his disciple had actually delivered a drop of the blood essence of a special life form to him. Bai Yen, who delivered this blood essence? The silver-haired older man immediately asked. It was an advanced, great divine master called Sword One. Bai Yen said hurriedly. Advanced great divine master. The silver-haired older man was somewhat startled. Master, I've never heard of Sword One before. He doesn't seem to have any background in the Golden Crow 9 realms, but he has many treasures. From the very beginning, he took out a 12,000 kilogram blood desolate emperor crystal. He wanted to use this blood desolate emperor crystal to ask the master to refine a divine weapon for him personally. But when I said that a single blood desolate emperor crystal wouldn't move master out this drop of blood essence, Bai Yen said, an advanced great divine master can take out 12,000 kilograms of blood desolate emperor crystal and the blood essence of a special life form? Interesting. The silver-haired older man was obviously interested, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Bai Yen, go and invite Sword One over. Remember to invite him, and be polite. Don't neglect him just because he is an advanced great divine master, the silver-haired old man warned. Yes. Bai Yen nodded and left immediately. The silver-haired elder was still looking at the essence blood in the jade bottle, his eyes shining even brighter. Mr. Sword One, as I said before, the master was pleased to see the essence blood. Now he asked me to invite you to see him. Come with me. Bai Yen smiled humbly. In that case, I'll have to trouble you to lead the way. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Under Bai Yan's personal guidance, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the deepest part of the castle and arrived at the crimson space. Jian Wushuang immediately saw the silver-haired old man. However, the silver-haired old man was now wearing an ordinary gray robe, and his expression became calm and unfathomable. Sword One greets Master Mo. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully. Facing the number 1 blacksmith master in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow and a powerful immortal saint, Jian Wushuang still maintained his due respect. Sword One is too polite. Please rise. The silver-haired older man, Master Mo, waved his sleeve, and Jian Wushuang naturally lifted him up. Then Lord Mo glanced at Bai Yen behind him and said, Disciple, you can leave now. I want to have a private chat with Sword One. Yes. Bai Yen glanced at Jian Wushuang and bowed before leaving. Only Jian Wushuang and Lord Mo were left in the crimson space. Judging from your aura, you're only an advanced great divine master, but your attacks are extraordinary. First, you took out 12,000 kilograms of blood wilderness emperor crystal, and now you even took out a drop of special life essence blood. Moreover, you brought it to me. Aren't you worried that I'll be greedy and leave you and the 2 treasures behind? After all, this drop of special life essence blood is very attractive to me, Lord Mo said faintly. Ha, Lord Mo, as the number one blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, with such a prominent status, how could you do such a thing, even if you really have such a thought? Since I dared to come alone, I naturally have absolute confidence. If you really have such a plan, I guarantee you will regret it. Although Jian Wushuang smiled, the confidence between his brows was not an act. He was truly confident. He naturally had his own confidence, since he dared to come alone, and showed the blood-desolate Emperor Crystal and the processed blood essence to Lord Mo. His confidence came from the fact that he was a perfect chaotic creature. Lord Mo could not kill him at all. If he was really desperate, he would use the will of heaven. He would also directly use the life-level suppression to teach Lord Mo a lesson. Lord Mo took a deep look at Jian Wushuang. His vision was very high, and he could see people very accurately. He could tell that Jian Wushuang was indeed very confident. Lord Mo changed the topic and smiled. What kind of magic weapon do you want me to refine for you? I have already refined the magic weapon. However, although this magic weapon is also a natal, it hasn't been added with my blood essence during the refining process. So I want to ask you to refine it again so that it can merge with my blood essence power. Jian Wushuang said. It's that simple. Lord Mo could not help being surprised. It was only a matter of refining a natal magic weapon and infusing it with the power of blood essence. Some 5th or 6th grade blacksmiths should be able to do it easily. Lord Mo, don't think of this as a simple matter. It seems easy, but in fact, the requirements for blacksmiths are very high. It is said that you are a top 7th grade blacksmithing master, but whether you can really meet my requirements and complete this step for me is uncertain, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh, Lord Mo narrowed his eyes and glanced at Jian Wushuang without getting angry. Chapter 2842, Lord Mo's Excitement. I wonder which magic weapon sword one wants to refine again. Lord Mo asked with a smile. This is it. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand, and the Blood Mountain sword immediately appeared in his hand. Lord Mo stared at the Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand and carefully browsed it for a moment. Finally, however, he frowned slightly. He was the number 1 master of blacksmithing in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, but at this moment, he did not see anything special about the Blood Mountain sword. It seemed that the Blood Mountain sword was no different from an ordinary magic weapon. Young friend, can you let me have a closer look at this sword? Lord Mo asked. Of course. Jian Wushuang directly threw the Blood Mountain sword in front of Lord Mo. Lord Mo stretched out his hand, and just as his old palm received the Blood Mountain sword, buzz, instantly, a terrifying sword essence directly surged toward him. This sword intent could be said to be world-shocking. Although Lord Mo was an immortal saint, the instant he felt this sword intent, his body and mind could not help but tremble. At the same time, boundless killing intent spread out. Lord Mo felt a boundless sea of blood from the Blood Mountain sword. The sea of blood surged into the sky, and countless corpses were buried there. It was obvious that this sword had killed countless experts. It was a real killing sword, an unparalleled sword. This sword, after carefully examining the Blood Mountain sword and sensing its structure, Lord Mo's eyes were filled with more and more shock. In the end, the eyes of the number 1 refiner of the Golden Crow 9 realms, the immortal saint, were wide open. Perfect. Too perfect. The body of the sword on the outside and the structure on the inside, from the beginning of the refinement to the formation of the sword, and even the control of the fire, are all absolutely perfect. There is not a single flaw. On the contrary, every flaw has been found. How is it possible? How can someone refine a divine weapon so perfectly in this world? Unbelievable! Unbelievable! Even though Lord Mo was well-informed and had seen all kinds of divine weapons, as well as all kinds of refining methods, he was completely shocked when he carefully felt the structure of the Blood Mountain sword. He was surprised, or even completely shocked. He had never thought that a divine weapon could achieve such perfection. In his opinion, regardless of whether it was refining weapons or pills, no matter how high the standard was, there would still be a slight flaw in the refining process. This slight flaw was not called a flaw in the eyes of many people. Therefore, the divine weapons or elixirs they refined were still perfect. However, the divine weapon in front of him truly made him unable to find a single flaw. Perfect, truly perfect. Who is it which almighty expert refined such an incredible divine weapon? Lord Mo exclaimed in surprise. He was a peak 7th grade blacksmith, but when he refined divine weapons, it was already perfect to achieve 70% perfection. As for those 8th or 9th grade blacksmiths who were of a higher level than him, they could at most achieve 80% or 90% perfection. If one wanted to achieve 100% perfection without any flaws, even the legendary blacksmiths at the peak of the 9th grade could not achieve it. But now, this magic weapon, although I don't know who made it, this magic weapon really opened my eyes. Lord Mo laughed loudly. His entire body was trembling, obviously very excited. He looked at Jian Wushuang and asked, "Sword One, can you tell me who made your sword?" Lord Mo looked at Jian Wushuang with anticipation. Obviously, he wanted to know the answer. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and said, "I can only tell you his name. His name is Xian Yi. As for the rest, I can't tell you." Xian Yi, Xian Yi. Lord Mo chanted the name and then bowed respectfully to Jian Wushuang. "Lord Mo, what are you doing?" Jian Wushuang was caught off guard. This powerful Lord Mo actually bowed respectfully to him? How could he stand it? "My friend Sword One, am bowing to you to thank you for telling me about this incredible weapon master. Although I can't see the scene of this master Xian Yi refining a magic weapon with my own eyes, I have no regrets just knowing his name. At least I know that in this world, there is an incredible weapon master who can refine the most perfect and flawless magic weapon. From now on, whether I have the chance to meet Master Xian Yi or not, he will be the person I respect and admire the most." Lord Mo's voice was sincere. He truly regarded Xian Yi as his idol. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang could only smile bitterly. He did not expect Lord Mo to be so shocked after seeing the Blood Mountain sword. He did not even care about his status. After a while, Lord Mo finally calmed down. "Sword One, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Lord Mo smiled awkwardly. "Never mind." Jian Wushuang shook his head. "Now, I finally know why you paid such a high price to ask me to refine this magic weapon for you. You're right. In the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow, no one except me is qualified to refine this magic weapon again. Even for me, this is a great challenge. It can even be said to be the biggest challenge in my life." Lord Mo said seriously, "The biggest challenge? Does that mean that even you, Lord Mo, are not sure that you can refine the sword again?" Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. "Yes." Lord Mo nodded. "It's impossible to refine such a perfect magic weapon. Even a top 8th grade or legendary 9th grade weapon refiner can't do it, let alone me. However, my young friend's request is to infuse his own blood essence into the magic sword. So for me, I have a chance to do it. As for my confidence, it's about 60%. Only 60%. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. "Don't worry, my friend. Although I'm only 60% sure it won't affect or damage the magic weapon even if I fail. Since such a perfect magic weapon has been created, it's impossible to damage it. Furthermore, I'm just a top 7th grade weapon refiner, so I can't affect it at all, Lord Mo said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. In that case, when will you refine it, Lord Mo? Chapter 2843, Holy Heaven Furnace and Earth Flame. It's not difficult to make this magic weapon. Just give me 3 days to prepare it. By the way, have you prepared the essence blood? Lord Mo asked. I have prepared the essence blood, but not much. I don't know if it can satisfy my appetite for this magic weapon, Jian Wushuang said. It doesn't matter. If it really doesn't work, I have accumulated a lot of blood essence from a powerful bloodline. I will just take some out. Lord Mo smiled and said, In that case, please wait here quietly for 3 days. No problem. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Lord Mo began to prepare carefully, while Jian Wushuang waited quietly in the scarlet space. 3 days passed quickly. Lord Mo appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. Sword 1, everything is ready. Come with me. Lord Mo smiled and led the way. Jian Wushuang followed Lord Mo and continued to walk toward the depths of the castle, or to be exact, the deepest part of the underground. After walking for about an hour, Jian Wushuang finally came to a vast open space. This open space was a high platform. If Jian Wushuang did not expect it, it should be at the core of a giant volcano. Beneath it and around it, there was red magma. It must be known that the volcanoes in the mountain range occupied by Fire Cloud Castle were hundreds of thousands of years old, or even millions of years old. Jian Wushuang was now in the oldest volcano among the volcanoes, which had existed for more than 30 million years. The temperature of the lava in the deepest part of the 30-million-year-old volcano was frighteningly high. Jian Wushuang was able to stand in the open space in the center of the volcano due to his powerful body protection ability. However, if it were an ordinary great divine master, he would have to exert all his divine power to resist the scorching temperature. However, it would consume too much divine power. Under normal circumstances, even a great divine master would not stay in the open space for long. Lord Mo was a powerful immortal saint, so he did not care about the temperature. Sword 1, how do you feel? Have you adapted to this place? Lord Mo asked with a smile. Not bad. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly, but it was extremely relaxed. After coming to this open space, Jian Wushuang's eyes had already locked onto the thing in the center of the open space. It was a huge fiery red cauldron. Yes, it was a cauldron. It was used to refine elixirs or weapons. The reason why this cauldron attracted Jian Wushuang's attention was that the aura it emitted was very strong. With such a strong aura, this cauldron should be a holy treasure, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, it's a holy treasure. Lord Mo smiled. This cauldron is called the Holy Heaven Furnace. Many years ago, I spent a lot of effort and money to get it. Although it doesn't have any offensive or defensive power, if I use it to refine weapons or elixirs, it will be twice the result with half the effort. Naturally, it will be very useful to me. I am only a top 7th grade blacksmith, but if I use the Holy Heaven Furnace to refine weapons, I can barely reach the 8th grade level in a short period of time. Naturally, I have a greater chance of refining treasures. Oh, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and nodded inwardly. The Holy Heaven Furnace was indeed very helpful to refining weapons, as it could make a top 7th grade blacksmith exert the abilities of an 8th grade blacksmith. This old man hasn't opened this sacred heavenly furnace for many years. Normally, even if I were to refine a divine weapon for someone, an ordinary cauldron would be sufficient. However, this time, Lord Mo faintly smiled and fiercely waved his large hand. A special seal smashed towards the holy heavenly furnace. Bang! The holy heavenly furnace also violently shook, as if it was responding. Rise the furnace! Lord Mo's voice sank, and a majestic divine power instantly surged out. The moment these two words left his mouth, the volcano that had existed for 30 million years, which was originally incomparably calm, began to roar crazily. The entire empty land, including the entire volcano, was shaking crazily, and the shaking was becoming more and more intense. While it was shaking crazily, fire pillars swept toward the holy heaven furnace from all directions. There were 9 fire pillars, and the most important thing was that the flames contained in the 9 fire pillars were purple-black. They were purple-black. The 9 purple-black fire pillars completely covered the holy heaven furnace, and in an instant the entire open space turned into a sea of purple-black flames. Good boy. Jian Wushuang was also standing on the open space, but he happened to be outside of the sea of purple-black flames. He looked at the sea of flames in front of him with a trace of shock. These flames are so terrifying, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It was indeed terrifying. Although he did not personally feel the power of the purple-black flames, he could vaguely feel that the purple-black flames had the power to burn down all living things. If I don't have the strength of an immortal saint, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist the flames. Even an invincible divine master would die if he was trapped in the sea of flames for 10 breaths. Jian Wushuang sighed. Then he looked at Lord Mo. Lord Mo, what are these flames? Jian Wushuang asked. This is the earth flame. Among all the natural flames in the divine beginning world, it's just an ordinary one. But although it's ordinary, it can accumulate temperature according to its existence. An ordinary earth flame that is tens of thousands of years old or hundreds of thousands of years old is not terrible, but an earth flame that is more than 1,000,000 years old is very impressive. But the earth flame you see now has existed for 30 million years. Lord Mo said, 30 million years of earth flame? No wonder. Jian Wushuang secretly exclaimed, the reason why I chose to put my castle in this group of volcanoes is that there are all kinds of earth flame in the volcanoes. There are hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years of earth flame. The most important thing is the 30 million years of earth flame. This earth flame is definitely a dream for me. A blacksmith, Lord Mo said with a smile. Jian Wushuang also understood. In the open space in front of them, the purple-black flames formed a huge sea of fire. The holy heaven furnace, which had been standing quietly, turned red, and the aura it emitted became stronger and stronger. Finally, bang, the huge lid of the furnace was thrown away, and the holy heaven furnace rose up. Chapter 2844. Opening of the holy heavenly furnace boom. Boom. As the holy heavenly furnace was opened, this enormous volcano began to shake violently. One had to know that this volcano was the largest and the most core of this group of volcanoes. As it shook, immediately the entire group of volcanoes began to shake violently. Endless flames erupted from the mouths of the volcanoes. The entire sky was dyed red. The noise was no less than that of countless volcanoes erupting at the same time. In an instant, the entire Fire Cloud Castle was shaken. In the main hall, in the depths of Fire Cloud Castle, the purple-robed middle-aged man, Bai Yin, brought Jian Wushuang to meet Master Mo, and then returned here. He was still talking with Master Chu. Master Chu, the master is meeting a distinguished guest. I'm afraid it will take some time for him to give an answer. So I have to trouble you to wait here for a while, Bai Yin said to Master Chu. Since Master Mo is busy with something, as a junior, it's only right for me to wait here. Young Master Chu did not have any temper. What a joke! Even if his father came to pay a visit personally, When Master Mo had something important to do, he could only wait obediently. How could he dare to have the slightest bit of dissatisfaction? It had already been 3 days since they had waited like this. Young Master Chu was not in a hurry. He seemed to be very patient. But at this moment, boom, boom, the entire fire cloud castle, along with the huge group of volcanoes, began to shake violently. Endless flames filled the entire world. This huge commotion was noticed by Bai Yen and young Master Chu in the main hall. What's wrong? What's going on? Young Master Chu was puzzled, but Bai Yen suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with shock. This is the Holy Heavenly Furnace. The Holy Heavenly Furnace has opened. Bai Yan's voice was filled with shock. Holy Heavenly Furnace. Young Master Chu was also shocked when he heard these 3 words. The #1 master craftsman in the Golden Crow 9 realms, Lord Mo, was too famous in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. Many experts knew of Lord Mo's craftsmanship. At the same time, they had also heard of the Holy Heavenly Furnace. Young Master Chu naturally knew of it. As for the Holy Heavenly Furnace, it was a sacred treasure that was used to refine weapons or elixirs. This treasure was especially important to Lord Mo. Moreover, it was not easy to activate this treasure. Not only did it require flames, but it also consumed a huge amount of Lord Mo's divine power and mental energy. Because of this, Lord Mo rarely used the sacred heavenly furnace when refining weapons. For example, the last time Lord Mo used the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine weapons was a long time ago. The most powerful expert of the Golden Crow 9 realms, the Bone Emperor, personally came to ask Lord Mo to refine a special treasure. At that time, Lord Mo had just used the Holy Heavenly Furnace. It had been hundreds of thousands of years. And now, Lord Mo had actually used the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine weapons again. Master has been staying with that sword one for the past 3 days, and now he's using the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine weapons. It seems like he's refining a divine weapon for that sword one, but no matter what, that sword one is only an advanced great divine master. What kind of divine weapon does he want Master to refine for him? It's actually worth Master using the Holy Heavenly Furnace. Bai Yen growled in his heart. Who invited Lord Mo to personally refine a divine weapon, and even let Lord Mo use the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine it? Young Master Chu's heart was shaken, and his heart was filled with doubts. He tried to ask Bai Yen, but Bai Yen only gave him a few prevarications and did not tell him who invited Lord Mo. Young Master Chu could only investigate on his own. It was not just Bai Yen and young Master Chu. Many experts and blacksmiths in the Fire Cloud Castle were also shocked. But other than surprise, there was more ecstasy and excitement, especially those blacksmiths. The reason why they came to the Fire Cloud Castle was to observe the bloodbath blacksmithing technique. And now, although they could not see the scene of Lord Mo controlling the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine elixirs, they could only feel the Holy Heavenly Furnace being activated. Feeling the great power of the blacksmithing was of great use to them. In the vast open space under the largest volcano in the center, the Holy Heavenly Furnace was surrounded by a purple-black sea of fire. The aura of the holy treasure level had completely erupted. The Holy Heavenly Furnace has been opened. Little friend, Sword One, send your magic weapon over, Lord Mo shouted in a low voice. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He waved his hand and threw the Blood Mountain sword into the Holy Heavenly Furnace. As soon as it entered the Holy Heavenly Furnace, the purplish-black flames around him suddenly soared. Lord Mo stared at the Divine Power Defense Shield and directly rushed into the sea of flames and came to the Holy Heavenly Furnace. Then he began to slap all kinds of handprints on the Holy Heavenly Furnace. These handprints were very unique, and they were a special tool refining method. Jian Wushuang could not understand this tool refining method, but he could feel that as the handprints were made, the temperature of the flames in the holy heavenly furnace became higher and higher. While using the tool refining method, Lord Mo kept throwing some auxiliary materials into the holy heavenly furnace. Time passed slowly. Lord Mo was using the holy heavenly furnace to refine the Blood Mountain sword with all his strength, while Jian Wushuang was watching quietly. Although he did not know how to refine weapons, the skills of a superior 7th-grade weapon refiner were worth watching. In a flash, 9 days passed. During these 9 days, Lord Mo had been using the holy heavenly furnace with all his strength and did not stop for a moment. After 9 days, Jian Wushuang could clearly sense that Lord Mo had used up a lot of divine power and mind power, and he looked a little tired. Because the holy heavenly furnace had been activated, the giant volcano had been shaking violently. The entire fire cloud castle had been shaking for 9 days without any weakening. After 9 days and 9 nights of continuous refining, Lord Mo finally completed the refining step. Little friend Sword 1, get ready. We are going to use the essence blood soon, Lord Mo said solemnly. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, and his face became extremely solemn. In the blink of an eye, another hour passed. Buzz. A faint sword hum suddenly sounded from the holy heavenly furnace. The sound was not loud and did not stand out in the sea of fire. However, both Lord Mo and Jian Wushuang heard it clearly, especially Jian Wushuang, who was connected to the Blood Mountain sword, Heartblood. He could clearly feel the throbbing of the Blood Mountain sword at this moment. Young friend, quickly send the essence blood into the holy heavenly furnace, Lord Mo shouted. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He turned his palm, and a drop of scarlet essence blood appeared in his palm. Chapter 28:45. Four-sided vibration. What appeared in Jian Wushuang's palm was the most complete blood essence that his perfect chaotic creature possessed. Because he had come to look for Lord Mo in order to merge his blood essence into the Blood Mountain sword, he had prepared his blood essence. This drop of blood essence was completely different from the one he had taken out in order to see Lord Mo. Lord Mo had been using the holy heavenly furnace for 9 days and 9 nights, so he was mentally exhausted, but his consciousness was very clear. He had also been staring at Jian Wushuang, wondering what level of blood essence Jian Wushuang had prepared for the most perfect magic weapon. Could it be the blood essence of a special life? Lord Mo was indeed a little curious. So when Jian Wushuang took out the blood essence, he immediately looked over. But when he saw the blood essence in Jian Wushuang's hand, Lord Mo was stunned. That drop of blood essence. Lord Mo's eyes were like 2 lanterns staring at the drop of blood essence in Jian Wushuang's palm. Even from a certain distance, he could still feel how pure and powerful the drop of blood essence was. How is it possible? It's dozens of times purer than the drop of blood essence of the special life I received before, or even hundreds of times purer. Lord Mo was completely stunned, or rather completely stunned. He had met Jian Wushuang because of the drop of blood essence that Jian Wushuang had brought. He was sure that the drop of blood essence was from a special life form. It was much purer than the blood essence of many bloodline races in the divine beginning world. That was what he had always dreamed of. But now he found that the drop of blood essence that he had dreamed of was like the sky and the earth compared to the drop that Jian Wushuang had brought out. It was too pure. Lord Mo had never thought that there was such pure essence blood between heaven and earth. The previous drop was the essence blood of a special life, and it should be very strong among special life forms. This drop of essence blood seems to be 100 times purer than that one. What level is this essence blood? Lord Mo was stunned. At this time, Jian Wushuang had already waved his hand, and this drop of pure and perfect essence blood was immediately thrown toward the holy heavenly furnace. When the essence blood fell into the holy heavenly furnace, it was quite calm at first, but this calm only lasted for a moment. Buzz! A loud and clear sword cry suddenly sounded. The sword cry was extremely ear-piercing. It went along the passage of the volcano above and instantly shot to the 9 heavens, resounding throughout the entire sky. The entire world was stunned by this ear-piercing sword chime. In the next moment, a sword intent suddenly erupted from the holy heavenly furnace. This sword's intent was not that majestic or that powerful. However, the level of the sword intent, or more accurately, the will contained within the sword intent, was enough to shock the heavens. It was a supreme sword intent that looked down on the world and looked down on all living beings as ants. It represented the peak of Sword Dao, the pinnacle of Sword Dao, and also the pinnacle of Sword Dao. Supreme. Buzz. The supreme sword intent shot into the sky and spread out unscrupulously. The area it spread out was extremely wide. The Dragon Phoenix Sacred City had always been under the control of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. At this moment, in the deepest part of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's nest, in an ancient secret room, an old man dressed in a yellow Taoist robe was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. His eyes were closed as he meditated quietly. However, when that supreme sword intent swept out without restraint, the old man instantly sensed it even though he was hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Immediately, the old man's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a pair of deep eyes that pierced through the secret chamber and looked into the distance. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures appeared in the secret chamber almost immediately. The auras of these 2 people were ethereal, but they were far superior to divine masters. They were clearly 2 true undying saints. However, these 2 undying saints were clearly in awe of the aged old man sitting on the futon. What's happening in that direction? The aged old man asked faintly. That direction should be where the Fire Cloud Castle is. I received news a few days ago that old man Mo has already started to refine treasures. This time, he even used the sacred heavenly furnace to refine them. From the looks of it, he should have refined an extraordinary treasure, a woman in green said. It seems so. However, the Fire Cloud Castle is extremely far away from our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The treasure that old man Mo refined over there actually has a great deterrent effect on us, who are hundreds of millions of miles away. What exactly did he refine? The old man narrowed his eyes slightly. Immediately get someone to investigate carefully and find out what he refined. Also, Elder Qin, you have to make a trip there yourself. All right. The green-robed woman nodded slightly. With a flash of her figure, she disappeared from the secret chamber. This was a nameless mountain peak in Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. A handsome and cold man was standing on the peak. This cold and handsome man looked very young, but his silver-white hair almost reached his waist. His figure was also ethereal, and his aura seemed to be indistinct. However, his eyes were bright and full of spirit, as if they were exploding. At this moment, this cold and handsome man with silver-white hair looked directly into the distant void. Sword intent! What a sword intent! This sword intent must have come from a place billions of miles away, an extremely distant place. It's clearly not too powerful, but the will contained in the sword intent actually made me want to submit. With such a terrifying sword intent, could it be that a true treasure has been born in that place? The silver-haired man muttered to himself, and his voice was also illusory. Supreme treasure? Master, where did you say a supreme treasure was born? Next to the handsome man was a teenager who looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. This teenager carried a long sword on his back and held one in his hand. When he heard the former's words, he immediately became excited. "Shut up," the handsome man berated. "That sword intent is supreme. It has a certain effect on you right now. Calm down and carefully sense it. With your current sword Dao cultivation, it's very difficult for you to sense the existence of that sword intent. However, as long as you sense even a little bit of it, your sword Dao cultivation will be able to increase by a lot. Can you improve your swordsmanship cultivation?" The 15-year-old stared at him. His interest immediately piqued. Then he sat cross-legged next to him and began to meditate and experience it. Chapter 2846. Hungry? The supreme sword intent contained within the ear-piercing sword chime was earth-shattering. The commotion it caused was simply too great. In the sacred dragon and phoenix city, those who stood at the peak were all alarmed, and their gazes all focused on the fire cloud castle. They all knew that a great change had occurred within the fire cloud castle. However, although the top super existences were shocked, the ordinary cultivators were not affected except for those around Fire Cloud Castle. They did not even notice the change. Fire Cloud Castle, at the bottom of the largest volcano. This sword essence is so high level. Jian Wushuang was still standing outside the fire sea. In the holy heavenly furnace at the center of the fire sea, he could clearly feel the shocking sword essence from the Blood Mountain sword. Naturally, he was even more shocked. A single drop of blood essence is not the limit of this divine sword. "My friend, do you still have blood essence?" Lord Mo, who was standing beside the holy heavenly furnace, looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not say anything. With a flip of his hand, 2 more drops of blood essence appeared in his hand. Looking at these 2 drops of blood essence, Lord Mo's pupils suddenly shrank. These 2 drops of blood essence were clearly the same as the one that had just been dropped into the holy heavenly furnace. "Go!" Jian Wushuang sent the 2nd drop of blood essence into the holy heavenly furnace. In an instant, the supreme sword essence that had already been extremely powerful burst out from the holy heavenly furnace once again soared. And it soared several times. Seeing this scene, Jian Wushuang did not stop and continued to send the 3rd drop of blood essence into the holy heavenly furnace. After the blood essence was absorbed by the Blood Mountain sword, the sword essence that burst out from the Blood Mountain sword soared to another level. Hasn't it reached its limit? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He was connected to the Blood Mountain sword's heart blood, so he could clearly sense the desire of the Blood Mountain sword. It was obvious that the Blood Mountain sword wanted more. It wanted more of his essence blood. However, this made Jian Wushuang worried. After all, there was not a lot of essence blood, like ordinary blood. Essence blood required a long time for a cultivator to accumulate and condense. It took a lot of time. When he was refining the golden armor in the Witch Desert wilderness, Jian Wushuang knew that he would be able to use his essence blood to fuse with the Blood Mountain sword. Therefore, he began to condense and accumulate his essence blood. Even so, he had only condensed 4 drops of essence blood. He had diluted 1 drop of the 4 drops of essence blood into 100 drops. The quality was not up to standard. He had given the remaining 3 drops to the Blood Mountain sword, but they still could not meet the requirements of the sword. There is no more complete blood essence. Try the defective one. Jian Wushuang immediately waved his hand and took out a jade bottle which contained drops of broken blood essence. Each drop was no better than the one given to Lord Mo. Master Mo was shocked to see this. Then Jian Wushuang threw the drops of essence blood into the holy heavenly furnace. However, when the essence blood was thrown into the holy heavenly furnace, it only made the flames in the holy heavenly furnace abnormally strong. Jian Wushuang found that the Blood Mountain Sword did not absorb the essence blood at all. It could have absorbed it, but it deliberately did not. It was as if the Blood Mountain Sword despised the blood essence. Yes, it despised it. The Blood Mountain Sword had absorbed 3 drops of perfect blood essence in a row. How could it be willing to absorb the defective blood essence? This little thing, Jian Wushuang felt bitter in his heart. He did not continue to throw the blood essence into the Blood Mountain Sword. It was purely a waste. The Blood Mountain Sword did not absorb it at all. Sword 1, do you have the higher level blood essence from before? Lord Mo looked at Jian Wushuang. I only have 3 drops, and I have used them all. However, my magic weapon has not absorbed it to its limit. Its intelligence tells me that it is still very hungry. Jian Wushuang said, Very hungry? Lord Mo frowned. Then he said in a low voice, The weapon spirit of your magic sword is very smart. After absorbing the 3 drops of essence blood, it no longer cares about the other essence blood. Now, it's impossible to absorb the essence blood for it. Why don't you try to absorb some other treasures, such as some genius earthly treasures? Genius earthly treasures? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and then he took out the 12,000-pound blood wilderness emperor crystal. This blood wilderness emperor crystal should be the most precious genius earthly treasure in his hands. It was extremely expensive and could be exchanged for 5 million saint elixirs. If it were any other time, Jian Wushuang would not be willing to take it out. But now he was not stingy with the Blood Mountain Sword, which had been with him for God knows how many years. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang threw the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal into the holy heavenly furnace. After the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal entered the holy heavenly furnace, Jian Wushuang immediately found that the Blood Mountain Sword had begun to absorb the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Sure enough, it's not interested in blood essence, but it's interested in other treasures. A smile appeared on Jian Wushuang's face. Little guy, eat up. Eat more. The more you eat, the stronger your power will be. Jian Wushuang was full of expectation. However, this expectation only lasted for a moment, and then he was stunned. The 12,000-pound blood wilderness emperor crystal that he threw into the holy heavenly furnace had been completely devoured by the Blood Mountain Sword, but the Blood Mountain Sword sent him a message. He was still very hungry. Is he still hungry? Jian Wushuang said with a bitter face, The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is already the most precious treasure in my hands. As for the other treasures that can be given to you, although there are some, they are not very valuable. You can eat them yourself. With a wave of his hand, Jian Wushuang took out one treasure after another and threw them directly at the holy heavenly furnace. Over the years, he had fought everywhere, killed countless experts, and even killed many great divine masters. These experts had all kinds of treasures on them, so naturally there were many natural treasures. Jian Wushuang put all these natural treasures together. He had planned to sell all of them in the future in exchange for some holy elixirs. But now, in order to satisfy the Blood Mountain Sword, he threw all these natural treasures into the holy heavenly furnace without any pity. As soon as the treasures entered the holy heavenly furnace, the higher level ones were immediately devoured by the Blood Mountain Sword. As for the lower level ones, the Blood Mountain Sword did not bother with them at all. He has a big appetite, and he is very crafty. Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh when he saw this scene. After a long time, all the treasures in Jian Wushuang's body had been thrown into the holy heavenly furnace. However, they still could not satisfy the Blood Mountain Sword's appetite. Chapter 2847 was done. After absorbing 3 drops of perfect blood essence and devouring so many treasures, including a 12,000-pound blood wilderness emperor crystal. You still can't satisfy your appetite. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. He had nothing left for the Blood Mountain sword to continue devouring. At this moment, Lord Mo, who had been standing beside the holy heavenly furnace, frowned slightly. Then he flipped his hand and took out all kinds of treasures from his interspatial ring. Lord Mo. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Lord Mo did not pay much attention to Jian Wushuang. He just kept throwing those treasures into the holy heavenly furnace. But Lord Mo was the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. He was also a powerful immortal saint who was rich, especially in all kinds of materials and treasures. Therefore, under Jian Wushuang's shocked gaze, Lord Mo took out one after another precious materials and treasures. Each of these treasures was extraordinary. Many of them were priceless. There were several treasures that were comparable to the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, and some were even more precious. In addition, there were some treasures that Jian Wushuang did not know and could not name. However, they were obviously extraordinary treasures. Lord Mo threw them into the holy heavenly furnace, and all the treasures that he threw into it were devoured by the Blood Mountain sword on the spot. Jian Wushuang saw them and could not help but feel sorry for Lord Mo. However, Lord Mo's expression was very calm, as if what was thrown into the holy heavenly furnace were not priceless treasures, but just pieces of ordinary firewood. After nearly half an hour, Lord Mo had thrown at least hundreds of treasures into the holy heavenly furnace. The Blood Mountain sword finally stopped absorbing, finally full. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at the holy heavenly furnace. Buzz! There was still a loud sword chime. The sword chime also carried a supreme sword essence. But the difference was that this sword's intent was more than 10 times stronger than the previous sword's intent. This sword intent truly shook the past and the present. Inside and outside the fire cloud castle, countless cultivators stood there in shock. Feeling the sword intent that had increased by more than 10 times, they were all stunned. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the weathered old man had already stood up. With his hands behind his back, he looked in the direction of the fire cloud castle, but his frown deepened. On the nameless peak, the silver-haired, handsome man narrowed his eyes. The youth who had been sitting cross-legged by the side was suddenly overjoyed. "Master, I can sense it. I can sense it." "There's nothing to be proud of," the handsome man said in a low voice. "If you could sense it before, it would be considered powerful. But now, that sword intent has increased by dozens of times. If you can't sense it again, you're not qualified to be my disciple." Hearing this, the young man curled his lips, but he did not know what to say. Under the huge volcano, is it done? Lord Mo was a little excited, even more excited than Jian Wushuang. He stared at the holy, heavenly furnace in front of him and then made a few more handprints. The purple-black flames around the holy heavenly furnace swept crazily, and a magic sword slowly rose from the holy heavenly furnace. "Condense." Lord Mo struck out his last hand seal. The supreme sword essence emitted by the divine sword was instantly withdrawn, and the light on the long sword slowly faded. The Blood Mountain sword also returned to its original appearance. As Jian Wushuang waved his hand, the Blood Mountain sword immediately rushed toward Jian Wushuang and was once again in Jian Wushuang's hand. As soon as he held the sword, he immediately noticed that it was different from before. Previously, although the Blood Mountain sword was his natal magic weapon and connected with his heart and blood, it was not perfect. But now, Jian Wushuang felt that the Blood Mountain sword was completely one with him. It was as if the Blood Mountain sword was already a part of his body, like his hands and feet. He could use it perfectly. As expected, after merging with my blood essence, my control of the Blood Mountain Sword has become even more perfect. Moreover, after absorbing 3 drops of my perfect blood essence and devouring so many rare and precious treasures, the power of the Blood Mountain Sword should have been greatly enhanced. Jian Wushuang slightly tightened his grip on the divine sword. Then he carefully examined the Blood Mountain Sword. Just as he had expected, the power of the Blood Mountain Sword had been greatly enhanced. Previously, the power of the Blood Mountain Sword in his hand was only at the superior heavenly treasure level. But now, although he had not really attacked, Jian Wushuang could still feel that the true power of the Blood Mountain Sword had reached the level of a holy treasure. And it was definitely much stronger than an ordinary holy treasure. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang found that the sword edge of the Blood Mountain Sword had become sharper. To be exact, it was extremely sharp. This sword edge, Jian Wushuang touched the sword edge with his fingers. He had an illusion that as long as the Blood Mountain Sword exerted a little force, his palm would be directly cut off, no matter how strong his protective ability was or what kind of defensive means he had on the surface of his body. Jian Wushuang even subconsciously felt that even if the cultivator in front of him was wearing a body protection armor at the level of holy treasure, the sword edge of the Blood Mountain Sword was enough to tear apart the body protection armor at the level of holy treasure. Then he continued to kill his opponent. It was this sharp feeling that could tear apart and cut through all obstacles. As for how sharp it was, Jian Wushuang had to experience real combat and kill a cultivator with the Blood Mountain Sword before he knew. Its power has become much stronger, and its blade is much sharper than before. Compared to before, the transformation of the Blood Mountain Sword is indeed huge, but that should not be all. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. The Blood Mountain Sword had fused with 3 drops of his perfect blood essence. According to the effect of 3 drops of blood essence, it should be more than that. Jian Wushuang immediately continued to study it. As he studied it, he soon found the deepest thing hidden in the Blood Mountain Sword. This is sword essence. Jian Wushuang's expression had become extremely stunned. It was not his fault, because he felt the existence of a sword essence in the Blood Mountain Sword. This sword essence was none other than the supreme sword essence that the Blood Mountain Sword had wantonly released. That sword intent was not too strong, but it was too detached. It was so detached that it made one's hair stand on end. But this sword intent was completely preserved in the Blood Mountain Sword. Chapter 2848, 8th grade. This sword essence. Jian Wushuang carefully felt the sword essence. He could see that it had completely integrated into the Blood Mountain Sword and became a part of it. As the master of the Blood Mountain Sword, he could naturally use this sword essence. Jian Wushuang immediately tried to communicate with the sword essence, trying to guide it. But in the end, he only managed to guide a bit of the sword essence. This sword essence is too extraordinary. With my current comprehension of sword principle, it seems very difficult to guide this sword essence. Jian Wushuang frowned, but soon relaxed. There's no rush. This sword essence has just merged with the Blood Mountain Sword. I'll study it when I have time. Jian Wushuang exhaled slightly, but a smile appeared on his face. In general, he was very satisfied with the transformation of the Blood Mountain Sword, especially the supreme sword essence in the Blood Mountain Sword. Jian Wushuang had a feeling that it would be very useful to him. After briefly checking the changes in the Blood Mountain Sword, Jian Wushuang looked at Lord Mo again. However, at the sight of Lord Mo, Jian Wushuang's expression became strange. After the refinement and the transformation of the Blood Mountain Sword, Lord Mo closed his eyes and stood there without moving. It seemed that he had understood something. Jian Wushuang also knew this, so he just stood quietly by the side, and did not disturb him. After a long time, Lord Mo, who was standing motionlessly, suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, an unprecedentedly fierce light turned into 2 bolts of lightning and suddenly shot out. Lord Mo's expression also instantly became pleasantly surprised. "Ha ha! I finally made it. After so many years, I finally made it. God really treats me well." Lord Mo laughed loudly with a hint of madness in his voice. This madness was completely caused by surprise and joy. Jian Wushuang stood aside and listened, but his expression changed. He could see that Lord Mo was so pleasantly surprised because he had made a breakthrough. And the breakthrough was not about strength, right? "Lord Mo, what are you?" Jian Wushuang said. "My friend, Sword One, I have to thank you and the magic weapon in your hand." Lord Mo smiled and said, "I have become a 7th grade weapon refiner and even reached the peak of the 7th grade. I haven't had the chance to advance for many years. It has been too long. I have dreamed of taking that step and becoming a true 8th grade weapon refiner. After all, the path of weapon refining is different from cultivation. The peak of the 8th and 7th grades may seem like a step away, but they are 2 completely different levels. They are 2 completely different worlds. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, I once met a true 8th grade weapon refiner. At that time, I was completely convinced by his weapon refining methods. I even wanted to become his disciple, but that person was only a low-grade 8th grade weapon refiner. I really yearned for that level, but unfortunately, that step is extremely difficult. Other cultivators encounter their own bottlenecks, and it is much more difficult. Moreover, there are no shortcuts. I have been stuck on this step for so many years. I originally thought that I would never be able to break through again in this lifetime, but today, I broke through. I finally took that step and became a true 8th grade weapon refiner." Lord Mo's laughter reverberated throughout the entire open space. It was indeed filled with joy. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly when he heard it. He guessed that Lord Mo's breakthrough was not due to his own strength. Perhaps his strength had also improved, but what truly made him so ecstatic and even made him disregard his status at the peak, it could only be a breakthrough in the weapon refining Tao. As expected, Lord Mo was a top 7th grade weapon refiner, and he had truly reached the 8th grade. 8th grade weapon refiner was an extremely respected figure even in the vast 3rd heaven, not to mention in the remote territory of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. "Congratulations, Lord Mo," Jian Wushuang said, congratulating him. "This time, I can advance 1 step further by refining again. Thanks to your help. You don't need to call me Master Mo anymore. My name is Mo Tao. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Mo," Mo Tao said. This Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. "What? Do you think I'm not good enough for you?" Mo Tao pretended to be unhappy. "I wouldn't dare, Brother Mo." Jian Wushuang quickly changed the way he addressed him. That's more like it." Mo Tao smiled again, feeling very happy. In fact, if it was an ordinary person, even some powerful immortal saints, Mo Tao's strength and identity might not be taken seriously. As for calling him brother, it was even more impossible. The reason why Mo Tao was willing to make friends with Jian Wushuang in such a way was that Jian Wushuang had indeed helped him a great deal this time, which made him very surprised. Secondly, he also saw that Jian Wushuang was extraordinary. From the beginning, when Jian Wushuang took out the drop of blood essence, which made him think that it was the blood essence of a special life, he had already seen that Jian Wushuang, an advanced great divine master, was not simple. However, when Jian Wushuang took out the Blood Mountain Sword, Mo Tao felt even more incredulous. As for what really shocked him, It was the 3 drops of blood essence that Jian Wushuang took out one after another during the refining process. The 3 drops of blood essence were completely beyond Mo Tao's understanding. However, he could see that the 3 drops of blood essence did not come from any other place but Jian Wushuang's own blood essence. Who was Jian Wushuang to have condensed such incredible essence blood that was completely beyond his knowledge? Mo Tao did not know. He could not even guess it, but he knew that Jian Wushuang's origin must be shocking. Under such circumstances, how could he dare to put on any airs? Similarly, he did not dare to put on airs, which was why this scene happened. My friend Sword One, after refining, absorbing 3 drops of your blood essence and so many treasures, your sword must have changed a lot. How does it feel? Mo Tao asked. It's a big change, and it feels good, but how much has changed? I have to find time to study it. Jian Wushuang smiled. Your sword has an amazing origin and great potential, Mo Tao said with a sigh. I have refined many divine weapons for many years, including many natal divine weapons. The natal divine weapons I have refined can at least become supreme grade, holy treasures in the future. If I'm lucky, they might even become supreme treasures in the future. Chapter 2849. Potential Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Magic weapons and treasures were divided into earthly treasures, heavenly treasures, holy treasures, and legendary supreme treasures. Among them, earthly treasures and heavenly treasures were only ordinary to the top, but at the level of holy treasures, the division was even more obvious. Holy treasures were divided into 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 1st grade, and supreme grade holy treasures. Each level was also divided from ordinary to the top. For example, the holy treasure level saber that Jian Wushuang had gotten from the secret realm and given to Yin Suer to handle was only a 3rd grade holy treasure. The Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand, in terms of power, should be at the top of the 3rd grade, barely reaching the 2nd grade. However, because of the sharpness of the Blood Mountain sword, it would be more effective in Jian Wushuang's hand than many 2nd grade holy treasures. As for the potential mentioned by Mo Tao, any natal magic weapon had potential. This potential depended on many factors, such as the materials used to refine it, the level of the blacksmith, the strength of the blood essence, and so on. The greater the potential, the greater the room for the natal magic weapon to grow in the future. For example, the golden armor that Jian Wushuang had refined from Master Kuan, a 4th grade weapon refiner, in the which desert waste domain was only limited to an ordinary waste domain. The materials used to refine, it was very ordinary, so a 4th grade weapon refiner's standard was naturally not that high, even if the golden armor had undergone a substantial transformation and possessed a certain potential because of the integration of Jian Wushuang's own blood essence. According to Jian Wushuang's estimation, it would at most reach the level of a supreme grade holy treasure. In other words, no matter how much Jian Wushuang's strength increased in the future, the golden armor would at most reach the level of a supreme grade holy treasure. It was impossible for it to become a legendary supreme grade holy treasure unless it was reforged. This was the potential of a natal weapon. Mo Tao used to be a top-notch 7th grade blacksmith. When he forged a natal weapon, the materials used to forge it was also very rare. Naturally, the natal weapons he forged had extraordinary potential. Even the weakest could reach the level of a supreme grade holy treasure. This could already be considered very impressive. The strongest treasure that I refined before was something that the Bone Emperor asked me to refine. That treasure has great potential. As long as the Bone Emperor's own strength can reach it, he has a chance to become a supreme grade treasure. Unfortunately, that treasure of the Bone Emperor is far, far inferior to this divine sword of yours. Mo Tao sighed. This magic weapon of yours has no flaws. It's the most perfect natal magic weapon. Now that it's fused with your 3 drops of essence blood, its potential has been stimulated. In the future, as long as you keep up with your strength, it can continue to grow and become a supreme treasure, even a top-notch supreme treasure. Moreover, this is far from the limit of your magic sword. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked at Mo Tao. Sword 1. You should have noticed that the essence blood you have absorbed during the refining process is far from the true requirements of your magic sword. Mo Tao said, I noticed. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. During the refining process, he had only absorbed 3 drops of his own essence blood for the Blood Mountain sword, which was obviously not the limit of the sword. However, he had already used up his own essence blood. He had intended to use the diluted essence blood to replace it, who knew that the Blood Mountain sword's appetite was so bad that it no longer cared about the low-end blood essence. Therefore, in the end, he could only feed the Blood Mountain sword with a large number of weapon-making materials and some natural treasures. Those weapon-making materials and natural treasures are just to satisfy your sword's appetite, but you haven't really developed the sword. Therefore, there is still a lot of room for your sword's potential in the future. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have more blood essence. Mo Tao said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled. He also saw that there was still room for further development of the Blood Mountain sword. However, the Blood Mountain sword was only interested in his perfect blood essence. However, it was not easy to condense his blood essence. He needed a lot of time to accumulate it. Moreover, he was only a divine master, so it did not take him too long to condense his blood essence. However, as his realm continued to improve and the strength of his divine power continued to increase, it would become more difficult to condense his blood essence. When that time came, just condensing a drop of blood essence, it would take thousands of years to condense a drop of blood essence. At that time, it would not be easy for him to accumulate enough blood essence for the Blood Mountain sword. Not only do you need enough blood essence, but after this refinement, it will be impossible for me, a mere 8th grade blacksmith, to infuse blood essence into the sword again. Even a 9th grade blacksmith might not be able to do so. Therefore, you can only go to the 3rd heaven and look for rare blacksmiths who have surpassed the 9th grade. They might have a way, Mo Tao said. So troublesome. Jian Wushuang frowned. After all, the accumulation of blood essence only needed time, and he could accept it. But to merge the blood essence into the Blood Mountain sword again, he needed a weapon refiner of the 9th grade, and above, the highest level of weapon refining was the 9th grade. The primordial divine world was vast, and there might be weapon refiners above the 9th grade, but it was not easy to find them. Even if he found them, it would be very difficult to get them to agree to help him refine weapons. It would also be extremely difficult. There's no rush. The current potential of the Blood Mountain sword is enough for me. As for further improvement, I'll think of something later when my strength continues to increase and I have sufficient capital. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. My young friend Sword One. There's something. Mo Tao continued to look at Jian Wushuang, but he wanted to say something, but he hesitated, and his expression was clearly a little awkward. Brother Mo, what's the matter? Just tell me, Jian Wushuang said. It's like this. I saw that you took out a lot of blood essence during the refining process, and the purity of the blood essence seems to be the same as the drop you gave me. If I'm not wrong, you used your own blood essence to decompose the blood essence, right? Mo Tao asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Well, do you have any more of this decomposed blood essence? Mo Tao looked at Jian Wushuang eagerly. Seeing Mo Tao's expression, Jian Wushuang instantly understood what he wanted. Brother Mo, do you want this blood essence? I do have some. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and one jade bottle after another appeared. The jade bottle contained drops of essence blood that were less than 1% of his original purity. Chapter 2850. Conditions previously, Jian Wushuang had diluted his perfect essence blood to a total of 100 drops. He had a total of 100 drops of essence blood, although he had given one drop to Mo Tao and wasted some during the refining process. He still had enough. Now, he had taken out 10 drops. Looking at the essence of blood, Mo Tao's eyes immediately became fiery. "My friend, can you give me some of this essence blood?" "Of course, I won't take it for free. If you have any conditions, feel free to ask. I will try my best to satisfy you." Mo Tao said, "Brother Mo, this essence blood is not very useful to me. Since you want it, I will give you 10 more drops." Jian Wushuang smiled and directly threw the 10 jade bottles to Mo Tao. This is too much." Mo Tao took the jade bottles and looked at the drops of essence blood that he could not get even in his dreams. He was very excited. After a while, he took 8 bottles. He returned the other 2 bottles to Jian Wushuang. 8 drops, plus the previous one. 9 drops of this essence blood is enough. Mo Tao said with a smile, "Brother Mo, don't be polite with me. I do have a lot of essence blood like this," Jian Wushuang said, and waved his hand again. Immediately, more jade bottles appeared. Looking at these jade bottles, the corner of Mo Tao's mouth twitched slightly. He once wanted to get a drop of essence blood like this, but he could not get it no matter how much he paid. But now, seeing Jian Wushuang take out such a drop of blood essence, it was as if he was taking something that could be easily seen. Naturally, he was not happy. 9 drops of blood essence is indeed enough. Any more, and the blood essence would not be precious. Mo Tao said, "Any one of these 9 drops of blood essence is worth more than 1,000,000 saint elixirs. I took 9 drops at one go, which is equivalent to tens of millions of saint elixirs. But I don't know what conditions you have. If I can do it, I will try my best to satisfy you." "No need." Jian Wushuang shook his head and smiled. "Brother Mo, you have already merged your blood essence into my magic weapon for me. In the process of refining it, you have also spent a lot of materials and treasures to satisfy its appetite. That's enough for the 9 drops of blood essence." "That's different. The materials and treasures used in the process of refining the magic weapon are of great use to me. Because of that, I was lucky enough to break through to become an 8th grade weapon refiner. This is more important to me than the treasures I used. Now I can't take your blood essence for free," Mo Tao said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help smiling bitterly. "How about this, my friend Sword One? Do you have any treasures at the level of holy treasure that you can use? If you do, I will make another one for you. I will provide you with the materials and various things you need to make the magic weapon. You just need to tell me what you want," Mo Tao said. This Jian Wushuang frowned and pondered for a moment. Then he raised his head again. "I already have my natal magic weapon and natal armor, so I don't need them for the time being. If Brother Mo really feels bad, you can make a domain-type treasure for me." "Domain-type treasure?" Mo Tao's expression changed. "Yes." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He had many skills, and one of the most powerful was his domain. He had a total of 4 domains, and when they worked together, they were extremely powerful. Especially during the battle between the 2 camps, his domain skill was enough to change the situation of the entire battlefield. However, the domain-type treasure, the Golden Feather Illusionary Light Mirror, was only a top-tier heavenly treasure, although its power was quite impressive. As Jian Wushuang encountered stronger opponents, the effect of this domain was greatly reduced. Naturally, Jian Wushuang wanted a more powerful holy treasure. That way, his many domains would be terrifying. Domain-type treasures are the most complicated and difficult among all the treasures. If I had not taken this step before, I would have to activate the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine a decent domain-type holy treasure. But now, even without the Holy Heaven Furnace, I can still refine it. However, I need some time to prepare the materials. I'm afraid I can't refine it in a short time, Mo Tao said. There's no hurry, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. In that case, I'll have to ask you to wait a little longer, Mo Tao said with a smile. Then he continued, in addition, although domain-type holy treasures are precious, their prices are still far inferior to those 9 drops of essence blood. So, how about this? I'll add 2 million holy elixirs to this domain-type holy treasure for you, okay? 2 million holy elixirs. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Sure. This time, he did not choose to refuse. Instead, he directly agreed. After all, he needed holy elixirs. He needed a large number of holy elixirs to improve his realm. After all, his current realm was only that of a peak divine master. Previously, he had planned to get rid of the 12,000 pounds of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals while refining the Blood Mountain Sword. That way, he could get a large number of holy elixirs to break through. He did not expect that the Blood Mountain Sword would directly swallow the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals during the refining process. Besides the treasure he needed, all the other treasures in his hands had been used up. He really did not have much wealth. At this critical moment, Mo Tao agreed to give him 2 million holy elixirs. This was tantamount to timely help. Jian Wushuang certainly would not refuse. Mo Tao took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Jian Wushuang. There are 2 million saint elixirs in this interspatial ring, and my communication token. When I am ready to refine the domain type, holy treasure, I will send a message to you. No problem. Jian Wushuang smiled and gave the result of the interspatial ring. By the way, Mo Tao said, Sword 1, the blood essence in your hand is extremely valuable, especially your own blood essence. It is even more incredible. But don't take it out in the future, and don't be stupid enough to sell it for saint elixirs or other treasures. If you are not careful, you might even be killed. Yes, I know. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Of course, he knew that the blood essence was very important, especially his own blood essence, the most perfect blood essence. If it really spread, it would attract many experts. Chapter 2851. Troublesome because he knew this. He had only used 1% of his blood essence after diluting it in order to meet Mo Tao, and he had only taken out 1 drop, until he had no way to take out his perfect blood essence in order to fuse it into the Blood Mountain Sword, and only in front of Mo Tao. As for selling his blood essence in exchange for a large number of holy elixirs or other treasures, if it was the decomposed blood essence, he could try 1 or 2 drops, but there were too many of them, and he would never sell them. As for his own blood essence, he would never give it to anyone. Blood essence was a symbol of life. Therefore, selling blood essence was a violation of one's dignity. No expert of any bloodline would sell their essence blood or give it to others unless they were really at the end of their rope. Mo Tao wanted to say something, but suddenly his expression changed, and he frowned slightly. Sword 1, we are in trouble. Mo Tao said, What's wrong? Jian Wushuang looked over. You know how loud the noise was when we were refining the weapon, especially the supreme sword essence. It was so loud that some old men in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and a few top experts of Sword Principle sensed it. As for the surroundings of my Fire Cloud Castle, they are all guessing that I should have refined a great Sword Principle weapon or treasure. Even the Bone Emperor sent a message to me personally, and Mo Tao said with a bitter smile. Bone Emperor sent a message personally? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew that the disturbance caused by the artifact refinement would definitely attract the attention of some experts. However, he did not expect that Bone Emperor would be alerted and ask about it personally. It's normal for Bone Emperor to ask about it personally. After all, he was the only one who asked me to refine a treasure using the holy heavenly furnace for so many years. So this time, of course, he wants to know who asked me to refine a treasure using the holy heavenly furnace and what level of magic weapon it is. Mo Tao smiled. It's just a casual question from Bone Emperor. I just need to find a reason to tell him about it. The trouble is that the experts who have arrived in my Fire Cloud Castle will definitely find out about it. They might even find a way to find out about it. By then, they might be able to trace it back to you. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He had come to look for Mo Tao to refine a treasure. If it was just an ordinary treasure, it would be fine. However, the commotion this time was so big. Once people found out that he had asked Mo Tao to refine a treasure, all the experts would definitely target him. By then, there would be a lot of trouble. Mo Tao naturally knew of this. So he immediately sent a message to his personal disciple, Bai Yan. Not long after, Bai Yan arrived at this empty space. Master! Bai Yan was incomparably respectful in front of Mo Tao. Disciple, how is the situation in the Fire Cloud Castle right now? Mo Tao directly asked. Replying, Master, ever since you activated the sacred heavenly furnace and started to refine a weapon, the entire Fire Cloud Castle has been shaken. The various powers also quickly received the news. The world overlords of the 4 pavilions, the various realm lords of the various realm verses, as well as the rulers of some of the major powers in the Golden Crow 9 realms, all sent messages to ask me about the cause of this matter. However, I only gave them a few words of prevarication and didn't explain it to them. These people are just here to ask questions, but some experts from the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City have come to visit, especially a Supreme Elder from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Bai Yan said, A Supreme Elder from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was one of the 4 pavilions, and its geniuses were as numerous as clouds. To be able to become a Supreme Elder, he must be a genuine immortal saint. How many people in the Fire Cloud Castle know that Sword One came to see me? Mo Tao asked. There should only be 4 people who know about it, Bai Yan said solemnly. The first one is a guard at the level of a novice great divine master. He brought Mr. Sword One into the Fire Cloud Castle. Kill him, Mo Tao said directly. Bai Yan and Jian Wushuang were both stunned. The former nodded slightly. Then he said, The second one is Junior Brother Fan, Exion. I thought that Sword One was just an ordinary advanced great divine master, so I let Junior Brother Fan, Exion, pick him up. It was not until Mr. Sword One took out the 12,000 pounds of blood wilderness emperor crystal that I personally went to receive him. Fan Exion? Mo Tao narrowed his eyes. Tell him that from today on, he will go into closed-door cultivation and cannot come out for 10,000 years. Yes. Bai Yan accepted the order and continued, The third one is me. Bai Yan was a little shocked, but he still had some confidence. He was different from the guard and Fan Exion. He was Mo Tao's personal disciple and could be said to be Mo Tao's successor. Mo Tao would not go so far as to deal with Jian Wushuang in order to cover up his existence or ask him to enter closed-door cultivation for 10,000 years. As expected, Mo Tao only exhorted him. You should know the severity of the matter. You must not reveal the existence of little friend Sword One, and you must not let anyone know that it was little friend Sword One who asked me to refine that magic weapon. Otherwise, even if you are my personal disciple, I will not show mercy. I understand. Bai Yan heaved a sigh of relief. You just said that there should be 4 people who know of little friend Sword One's existence, but you only said 3. Who else is there? Mo Tao looked over. There's still one more. Bai Yan frowned. Master, the last person who knows of little friend Sword One's existence is young Master Chu. Young Master Chu? Which young Master Chu? Mo Tao asked. He's the young master of the heavenly Chu realm lord. Bai Yan replied softly. It's him. Mo Tao's expression changed. Why would he come to my fire cloud castle, and how would he know about this matter? Replying Master, 16 years later, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion will open the Dragon Phoenix rankings for the young Phoenix. At that time, countless experts would dare to go. And this young Master Chu has a special liking for the young Phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. He wanted to take the opportunity to send a huge gift to that young Phoenix in order to gain the favor of that young Phoenix. Hence, he specially rushed here. His motive is the same as Mr. Sword One. He also wanted Master to personally refine a special treasure for him. Bai Yan spoke. When Mr. Sword One came to my fire cloud castle, I happened to be in the middle of a conversation with young Master Chu. When the guard came to report, he did not lower his voice, so young Master Chu heard that Mr. Sword One had come to visit. However, when the guard reported, it also showed that Mr. Sword One was only an advanced great divine master. I also instructed Fan Xian to receive him in front of that young Master Chu. Chapter 2852. Little Phoenix, bastard. In order to gain a good impression of the current Little Phoenix, he actually wants me to personally refine a treasure for him. The young master of the Tian Chu realm lord. What great ability! And Mo Tao's voice was obviously filled with anger. At the same time, he also blamed Bai Yan. You actually let that young Master Chu hear about the matter of Sword One paying a visit. Bai Yan immediately lowered his head, not daring to look into Mo Tao's eyes. Brother Mo, young Master Chu only heard about my visit, but in a place like Fire Cloud Castle, people come to visit every day. I'm only an advanced divine master, so he wouldn't think about it. Even if he did, he wouldn't be sure and wouldn't bring me too much trouble, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. He spoke casually, but Bai Yan was shocked when she heard what he said. Brother Mo? He actually called Master Brother Mo, and Master clearly doesn't have any dissatisfaction. Bai Yan's face was filled with disbelief. He knew his master's identity. Even if the other party was an immortal saint, he would not be able to address his master so intimately. However, Sword One had only asked his master to refine a divine weapon, yet his master's attitude had changed so drastically. Furthermore, in order not to let others know of Sword One's existence, he had directly executed a guard and had Fan Xian enter seclusion for 10,000 years. It was very obvious that Sword One's status was in his master's heart had reached an extremely high level. I hope that Master Chu doesn't think too much about it. Or else, Mo Tao's face darkened slightly, and then he glanced at Bai Yan. Take Sword One and leave the underground palace immediately. Don't let anyone know. As for the other matters, leave them to me. Yes. Bai Yan nodded respectfully. Sword One, leave with him first. When the time is right, I will personally send a message to you. Mo Tao said. Okay. Jian Wushuang smiled, and then followed Bai Yan. Fire Cloud Castle was located in a huge group of volcanoes, and many places led to the underground of the volcanoes. Deep underground, there was an extremely hidden underground palace which could directly lead to the outside world. Mo Tao and Bai Yan were the only two people in Fire Cloud Castle who knew about the existence of this underground palace. Now Bai Yan was leading Jian Wushuang in this underground palace. Mr. Sword One, it's thanks to you to excuse me in front of Master just now. Otherwise, if my master was angry, he would have punished me. Bai Yan said humbly. Before, although Bai Yan did not dare to underestimate Jian Wushuang, he was not so humble. But now, when he heard Jian Wushuang call his master brother Mo, his attitude toward Jian Wushuang had completely changed. He became very warm and even respectful. It's just a small matter. Mr. Bai Yin, don't take it to heart. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, by the way, I just heard from you that in 16 years, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion will open the Dragon Phoenix list for the young phoenix. What's going on? This matter has been widely spread in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. How could you not know about it, Mr. Sword One? Bai Yin looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. To tell you the truth, I just came to the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, so I don't know much about it, Jian Wushuang said. No wonder. Bai Yin understood and then explained, this matter has to start with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is one of the 4 pavilions in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It has a deep foundation and is recognized as the cradle of geniuses in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Those who can enter the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and become its disciples are all dragons and phoenixes among men. It's true. Among the genius disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the male disciple with the highest talent is called the Hidden Dragon, and the female disciple with the highest talent is called the Young Phoenix. There are many geniuses in this generation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Hidden Dragon Chun Hao has reached the limit of the supreme divinity with outstanding talent. He is an invincible divine master who is extremely powerful. He is widely recognized as the #1 supreme divine master of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. His strength is almost as powerful as the immortal saint. Chun Hao is strong, but in terms of talent, the #1 genius in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and the Golden Crow 9 realms is the Young Phoenix. She is known as the #1 genius in the history of the Golden Crow 9 realms. The #1 genius in the history of the Golden Crow 9 realms, this Young Phoenix is so powerful. Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. Back in the Sacred Sun world, he had heard that there was a super genius in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Even when he rose to prominence, there were people in the Sacred Sun world who compared him to that super genius. In the end, many people thought that the super genius was still better than him. This super genius must be very amazing. And this super genius was, as expected, this Young Phoenix. This Young Phoenix is indeed very talented. I heard that she has been cultivating for less than 200 years, but her cultivation has already stabilized to the peak of Divine Master. She is even on the verge of breaking through to Great Divine Master. The most important thing is her comprehension of the rules. Her comprehension of the rules is too fast. She is only a Divine Master, but it is said that her comprehension of the rules has already surpassed that of an ordinary immortal saint. Bai Yin said, "What?" Even Jian Wushuang was shocked to hear this. A divine master's comprehension of the rules has surpassed that of the immortal saint. How is this possible? Jian Wushuang muttered. His current realm was that of a divine master, and his talent was impeccable. He also had a treasure like a seal of heaven scroll, but his comprehension of the rules was only at the limit of a divine master. He was still one step away from the immortal saint. The Young Phoenix from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had a higher comprehension of the rules than him. The Young Phoenix had also cultivated for a very short time, less than 200 years, which was not much longer than him. How can her comprehension of the rules be so high? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, "I don't know, but there is a rumor that the Young Phoenix has an extremely special physique, which is unique and far beyond the ordinary people. For an ordinary cultivator, it is extremely difficult to comprehend the rules, but for her, it is as easy as eating and drinking. She doesn't need to cultivate carefully. She just stands there, and her comprehension of the rules is constantly improving. That's why her comprehension of the rules is so strong, Bai Yin said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. He would never believe that an ordinary cultivator could reach such a level in less than 200 years unless he was also reincarnated. But if he had a unique physique, it would be another story. Chapter 2853, Dragon Phoenix List. No wonder he is known as the number 1 genius of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. His comprehension of the rules is so high that no one can compare to him, Jian Wushuang thought. Although he was a perfect chaotic creature with infinite possibilities and great potential, no one could compare to him. However, his comprehension of the rules was obviously slower than the young phoenix. What about the Dragon Phoenix List? Jian Wushuang asked. The Dragon Phoenix List has been passed down by the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion for a long time. It's an extremely special list for experts who have made great contributions to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has been established for countless years, but only 8 people have been listed on the list. Each of these 8 people is very important to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. They are the top 8 contributors to the Dragon Phoenix list. They are recorded on the list and will always be respected by the younger disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Bai Yin said. So, the Dragon Phoenix list is the list of contributors to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Yes, as far as I know, the 8 experts on the Dragon Phoenix list seem to be immortal saints who have made great contributions to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The founder of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and the current leader of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion are also on the list. Many genius disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also take pride in being on the list in the future. Therefore, every time the Dragon Phoenix list is opened, it is a great event for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. On the way to the launch of the Dragon Phoenix list, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would invite many experts to watch it. It would be a very big event, Bai Yin said. But this time, it's a little strange. Why is it strange? Jian Wushuang asked. Mr. Sword One, I just said that the Dragon Phoenix list is specially opened for the young phoenix. Although the young phoenix is extremely talented and is known as the number 1 person in the history of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and the entire Golden Crow 9 realms, she is too young and not very strong. Moreover, she stays in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and hardly goes out. Under such circumstances, how can she contribute to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? How could she be qualified to be on the Dragon Phoenix list? Bai Yin said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Indeed, in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, only those who had made great contributions to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were qualified to be on the Dragon Phoenix list. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had been established for so many years, but only 8 people were on it, and they were all immortal saints. As for this young phoenix, how was she qualified? So it's a bit strange, but the rules of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion won't change because of this young phoenix. So this young phoenix must have made great contributions to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, but I don't know what the great contribution is. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion hasn't announced it to the public. Bai Yin smiled. Maybe so. Jian Wushuang also nodded. Mr. Sword One, you should be interested in that young phoenix, right? Bai Yin suddenly looked over. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Ha ha, Mr. Sword One, don't pretend to be confused. Bai Yin smiled. It is said that young phoenix is not only talented, but also beautiful. In the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, not many people have seen her face, but all the cultivators of the opposite sex are impressed by her. As the young Master Chu mentioned before, he is a young master of a realm master. But because he was lucky enough to see the young phoenix, he has been longing for her ever since. This time, he came to my Fire Cloud Castle to ask Master to refine treasures for him to win the young phoenix's smile. Mr. Sword One, Don't you have any interest in such a peerless beauty?" "Really?" Jian Wushuang was stunned. "I've only heard that this young phoenix is extremely talented, and no one in the Golden Crow 9 realms can match her. As for her beauty, I've never heard of her, but now that you've mentioned it, I'm really interested in her. When the Dragon Phoenix list is opened, if I have time, I can go and take a look." Jian Wushuang was indeed a little interested, but his interest was not because of the young phoenix's beauty. He had been through endless trials and tribulations in 2 lifetimes. His heart was like a stone, and he was completely immune to beauty. In terms of feelings, the only person in the entire divine beginning world and the entire world who could be moved was his wife, Long Rushuang. He was not interested in anyone else except Long Rushuang. Jian Wushuang and Bai Yen chatted as they walked. They walked into the underground palace for nearly an hour before they finally arrived at the exit. "Mr. Sword One, I'll send you here. You'll be in a barren mountain when you leave from this exit. It's quite a distance from Fire Cloud Castle. No one will notice you leaving from here. As for the rest of the matter, leave it to me and Master. Fire Cloud Castle will do its best to ensure that no one knows that you came to our Fire Cloud Castle to ask Master to refine a treasure personally," Bai Yen said. "In that case, thank you." Jian Wushuang smiled and immediately walked toward the exit. Bai Yen went back the way he came. Not long after, Bai Yen returned to the main hall of Fire Cloud Castle. In the main hall, Master Chu was still waiting. However, although Master Chu was waiting, he could not calm down for a long time. After all, when Mo Tao used the sacred heavenly furnace to refine the treasure, he had stayed in the Fire Cloud Castle and personally felt that terrifying sword intent. Right now, the entire Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, and even the top experts of the Golden Crow 9 realms, all knew that Mo Tao had refined an extremely powerful Sword Dao divine weapon. They were all guessing who had asked Mo Tao to refine it, and what kind of divine weapon it was. Young Master Chu's father, the world overlord Tian Chu, also directly sent a message over to ask him about it. Young Master Chu naturally wanted to find out more. The Fire Cloud Castle is the residence of that Lord Mo. Usually, there are too many experts who come here to visit. In addition, these experts are all received separately. Outsiders have no way to guess. However, there's one point. Whenever those with higher statuses come to visit, they would definitely be received by Yen. In fact, Lord Mo would even personally come out to welcome them. But according to the information I received in these past 100 years, that Lord Mo has never personally appeared. In other words, that person must have met Bai Yen first before Bai Yen brought him to meet Lord Mo. I didn't know the person who let Bai Yen receive him personally before me, but there was only one person after me, and that person was Sword One. Young Master Chu narrowed his eyes as he muttered to himself. Chapter 2854. Supreme Sword intent. While he was conversing with Bai Yen, he did hear someone come in to report that Sword One had come to pay a visit. At first, Bai Yen had only casually instructed Fan Xian to receive him. However, not long after, he saw Fan Xian arrive and whispered a few words into Bai Yan's ear. Bai Yen immediately left. Not long after that, Lord Mo began to activate the holy heavenly furnace. Therefore, in young Master Chu's eyes, Sword One was indeed suspicious. Sword One is from the Pill Sun's sacred world, and is recognized as the #1 expert in the Pill Sun's sacred world. He is only an advanced great divine master, but he is strong enough to fight against an invincible divine master. This Sword One is indeed extraordinary. Young Master Chu's face was solemn. While he was waiting in the main hall, he had sent people to investigate and find out some information about Jian Wushuang. He knew Jian Wushuang's origin and strength level, a monster who was only an advanced great divine master, but was strong enough to fight against invincible divine master. Of course, he did not dare to underestimate him. Because of this, he became more suspicious of Jian Wushuang. At this moment, Bai Yan walked over. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Master Chu." Bai Yan smiled apologetically. "No, I didn't wait too long either." Master Chu did not care. "Master Chu, I just asked my master. Unfortunately, my master just activated the holy heavenly furnace and refined a special treasure. His mind has been consumed too much, so he can't refine other treasures in a short time. Therefore, I'm afraid that your request can't be fulfilled." Bai Yan said, "It doesn't matter, since Lord Mo's mental energy has been consumed. As a junior, how would I dare to disturb him again?" Young Master Chu smiled slightly. "Oh, right. I wonder who is so capable to actually invite Lord Mo to use the holy heavenly furnace. This master has personally instructed that no one is allowed to know about this matter. Young Master Chu, if you don't want Master to personally blame you, it's best that you don't probe further." Bai Yan said, "I see. In that case, I'll take my leave." Master Chu did not stay any longer and left directly. However, even though he left, he still kept an eye on Jian Wushuang. In a barren forest in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, Jian Wushuang had temporarily opened a cave mansion. In the cave mansion, Jian Wushuang set up a restriction and then sat down cross-legged. In front of him, the Blood Mountain sword was floating quietly. After this refinement, the Blood Mountain sword had undergone tremendous changes. The most important thing was the supreme sword essence hidden in the sword type. Previously, Jian Wushuang had sensed the existence of this sword essence in Firecloud Castle, but because of the occasion, he did not spend time studying it carefully. But now, he calmed his heart and began to study it carefully. This sword essence is really powerful and can be used by me provided that I can guide it out, Jian Wushuang muttered, but he had already begun to try. He tried to rely on his comprehension of the sword principle to communicate with this sword essence and guide it. Under this attempt, gradually, he had a certain connection with this sword essence. He was not surprised. In the Firecloud Castle, he found that he could guide the sword essence in such a short time. However, he could only guide a tiny bit of the sword essence. Now, he was trying to guide more sword essence. Time passed. Jian Wushuang had fully displayed his comprehension of sword principle and tried to guide it as much as he could. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. "No, I've reached my limit." Jian Wushuang finally opened his eyes in the cave mansion. His eyes were fixed on the Blood Mountain sword in front of him, but his expression was extremely strange. Over the past 10 days, he had tried to use all the means he could, but in the end, he was still able to guide only a few sword essences. "If I try my best to guide the Blood Mountain sword, I'm afraid it's not even 1,000th of this sword essence." Jian Wushuang sighed. 1,000th or even less. But this was indeed the limit that Jian Wushuang could reach. If he wanted more guidance, he would have to improve his comprehension of the sword principle. However, even though it was only 1,000th of the sword essence, its power was still extraordinary. Let's find a place to test how strong this 1,000th of the sword essence is. Jian Wushuang immediately stood up and walked out of the cave mansion. He came to the vast void and looked at the vast ancient forest in front of him. Towering trees stood in front of him. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and waved his sword in the next moment. He did not use any swordsmanship. He just waved his sword in an ordinary way. He did not fully utilize his divine power. Even so, the moment he waved his sword, a crack appeared in the void in front of him. Then the towering trees in front of him fell one after another. The sword light cut dozens of trees in one go before it stopped. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang was a little happy. Sure enough, after adding my blood essence, the power of the Blood Mountain Sword has reached the top of the 3rd grade Holy Treasure. It's almost a 2nd grade Holy Treasure. If I use my swordsmanship, the power will be different and much stronger than before, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Just now, it was just an ordinary sword swing. I haven't activated the sword essence in the Blood Mountain Sword, but now, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He clenched his hands, and in a flash, a terrifying sword essence burst out from the Blood Mountain Sword. This sword essence was not very powerful, but it was extraordinary. It was a supreme sword essence with a shocking will. The sword essence swept across the world, and all the ants in the world were turned into ants. This feeling, Jian Wushuang held the Blood Mountain Sword tightly and felt the sword essence burst out from the Blood Mountain Sword. In an instant, he felt as if all the people in the world were under his feet. His heart became extremely excited. Let's see how much more powerful my swordsmanship has become. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and then waved his sword forward. Buzz! It was also an ordinary, casual sword move that used the same divine power as the previous one. However, under the influence of the superior sword essence, a cold sword light swept out directly. The power of this cold sword light was obviously much stronger than the previous one. The sword light swept across. It tore through everything in its path, directly cutting apart the towering trees in front of it. It was an ordinary and extremely casual attack. However, after slashing down hundreds of towering trees, it finally stopped. Chapter 2855. The great divine Master Jian Wushuang was still standing in the same spot, looking at the scene in front of him, but his mind was in a daze. This power is too strong. Jian Wushuang's body began to tremble. The same sword move just now had only directly cut down dozens of towering trees. But after activating the sword essence, it swept across and cut down hundreds of trees. The difference in power between the two was more than 10 times. I only activated less than 1,000th of the sword essence, but it has increased the power of my swordsmanship so much. This, Jian Wushuang was so shocked that he could not speak, but at the same time, he was ecstatic. Of course, he was ecstatic. After activating the sword essence, the power of his swordsmanship increased tenfold, which meant that his overall strength had also increased by nearly tenfold. His battle strength had been at the level of Invincible Divine Master. After the Blood Mountain Sword was reforged, its power had increased dramatically, which had greatly increased his battle strength. Now, because of the Supreme Sword Essence, his overall strength had increased by nearly 10 times. With the addition of the two, his battle strength was much stronger than when he had fought the Marquis of 3 in the Pill Sun's sacred world. If I go all out and activate this sword essence, it'll definitely be able to crush the Marquis of 3 easily. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. After a long while, he finally calmed down. Suddenly, he raised his head again. The Blood Mountain Sword has changed a lot since it merged with my blood essence, and it has greatly improved my overall strength. However, I didn't only get the Blood Mountain Sword, but I also got 2 million Saint Elixirs from Brother Mo. 2 million Saint Elixirs. Such a large amount is enough for me to advance from a peak Divine Master to something even higher. In this way, my strength will soar again. Jian Wushuang's eyes shone brightly. Then he returned to the cave mansion. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged, with an interspatial ring floating in front of him. There were 2 million Saint Elixirs in the interspatial ring. The average immortal saint was only worth about 500,000 to 600,000 Saint Elixirs. Only a rich immortal saint like Mo Tao could afford 1,000,000 saint elixirs. The immortal saint, who was also the #1 blacksmith, could afford so many saint elixirs. These saint elixirs were of great help to Jian Wushuang. I've already swallowed a large number of saint elixirs, and I've already accumulated more than half of my divine power. I only need to absorb another 200,000 saint elixirs to make a breakthrough. These 2,000,000 saint elixirs will not only allow me to smoothly make a breakthrough to become an advanced divine master, but also allow me to accumulate more than half of my divine power. It'll be very close to becoming an advanced divine master, Jian Wushuang muttered. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Let's begin. Without much hesitation, Jian Wushuang began to absorb the saint elixirs. 2,000,000 saint elixirs was a huge amount. Even with Jian Wushuang's terrifying refining speed, it took him nearly 10 years to absorb all 2,000,000 saint elixirs. As Jian Wushuang had expected, after absorbing 2,000,000 saint elixirs, not only did he break through to the level of a junior great divine master, but he also accumulated a great amount of divine power at the level of a junior great divine master. He was not far from a senior great divine master. It was not too far away. There was a huge barrier between the divine master and the great divine master. At this level, his divine power was nearly 10 times stronger. Now, if he used all his secret skills and fully activated the sword essence in the Blood Mountain Sword, no one among the divine masters would be able to compete with him in terms of power alone. Even the invincible divine masters would probably be far inferior to him. Jian Wushuang was curious about the gap between his full power and that of the immortal saint. Of course, he was just curious. He could not solve this problem until he fought with the immortal saint. After reaching the great divine master level, his strength had reached a whole new level. However, Jian Wushuang regretted that his secret skills had already reached a higher level. It was almost impossible for him to improve himself as a divine master. Therefore, even though he had made a breakthrough, the secret skills still did not change anything. It's a pity that Brother Mo had spent a lot of mind and energy to activate the holy heavenly furnace in order to fuse the Blood Mountain Sword with my blood essence. He hasn't recovered yet, and he hasn't started to refine domain type holy treasures. If I can get the domain type holy treasure that Brother Mo has refined, the power of my domain will soar again, and my strength will be even stronger, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. However, he was not in a hurry. With his current strength, as long as he did not meet a real immortal saint, he could do whatever he wanted. There are still 6 years before the Dragon Phoenix list opens. I have nothing to do in these 6 years. Let's continue cultivating. Jian Wushuang quickly closed his eyes. 6 years passed in a flash, and Jian Wushuang set off for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was located in the core of the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. It was located in a huge ancient mountain range and occupied an extremely vast territory. The entire Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was enveloped by a huge formation, which was set up by several blacksmiths above the 7th grade at great cost, as well as several immortal saint experts. It was extremely powerful. This array formation was also one of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's strongest pillars. With the existence of this array formation, even the #1 expert of the Golden Crow 9 realms, the Bone Emperor, would not be able to break through this array formation. With the protection of this array formation, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had been able to rest peacefully for a long time. The huge mountain gate was majestic and magnificent. This was the only way to enter the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Beside the mountain gate stood a huge stone tablet. The words Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was engraved on the stone tablet. There was a golden dragon and a fire phoenix sculpture around the stone tablet, which looked majestic. In front of the mountain gate, dozens of people from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were standing there welcoming the experts who came to observe. At this moment, Jian Wushuang had arrived at the foot of the mountain. Standing at the foot of the mountain, he looked at the ancient and towering mountain gate at the top. He could clearly see the sculptures of the golden dragon and the fire phoenix, and he could not help but feel a surge of emotion in his heart. As expected of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, one of the 4 pavilions in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It's really majestic and magnificent. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly and immediately walked up. Chapter 2856. Outside the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion today, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would hold a grand opening of the Dragon Phoenix list, inviting various forces and experts of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow to attend the ceremony. The news had long since spread, and many forces in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, including those experts, would also attend the ceremony. Now, in front of the majestic mountain gate, an endless stream of experts came to attend the ceremony. Jian Wushuang followed closely and soon arrived at the mountain gate. "Sir, I wonder which realm or force you are from. Do you have an invitation letter from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion?" A great divine master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion stopped Jian Wushuang and asked with a smile, "My name is Sword One, and am from the Sword Alliance of the Pill Sun's sacred world. As for the invitation letter, I don't have one," Jian Wushuang said. "Sword Alliance?" The great divine master frowned slightly. "What, do I have to have an invitation letter to attend the ceremony?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Not really. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is inviting experts from all over the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. As long as they have reached a certain level of strength, they can participate," the great divine master said with a smile. In that case, Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and a powerful divine power aura immediately erupted from his body. He had already broken through to the initial great divine master level, so the divine power aura he emitted under cover of black rock was that of a peak great divine master. When his divine power aura erupted, the surrounding people were immediately attracted to him. A peak great divine master? This person is actually an expert at the level of a peak great divine master. There are not many peak great divine masters in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Who is this person? Why have I never seen him before? Many people began to discuss. The great divine master from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion immediately smiled. "Since you are a peak great divine master, you are naturally qualified to participate in this ceremony. However, since you have entered the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, I hope you can fully abide by the rules of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and not act rashly." "Of course," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. "Please." The great divine master waved his hand. Jian Wushuang smiled and was about to walk into the mountain gate. However, at this moment, there was a sudden commotion on the steps below. Jian Wushuang looked over and saw a handsome young man in luxurious woolen clothes slowly walking toward the mountain gate, surrounded by a group of people. The young man was not very strong and was only at the advanced divine master level. However, the people around him were emitting powerful auras, all at the peak divine master level, especially the cold middle-aged man standing next to him. The divine power aura emitted by the cold middle-aged man was above that of a peak divine master. "It's young Master Chu, the young master of the Heaven Curve World Lord, the person beside him. Oh my God, it's the Black Blood Emperor. That Heaven Curve World Lord really dotes on young Master Chu. Although the Heaven Curve world is relatively large in the Golden Crow 9 realms, it only has 2 unrivaled reverent deities. But now, this Heaven Curve World Lord actually sent an unrivaled reverent deity to protect young Master Chu personally. This treatment, thanks, the experts in the surroundings all sighed. For these experts to come to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to attend the ceremony, they all had a certain background or strength. Naturally, their knowledge was extraordinary as well. For example, young Master Chu and the Black Blood Emperor all knew about this. Young Master Chu did not need to say much. He was the only son of the Skysong Realm Lord. Also, everyone knew how much young Master Chu adored that young phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. So it was only natural for him to attend this ceremony. But what truly shocked everyone was the arrival of the Black Blood Emperor. The Black Blood Emperor was an invincible divine master. In the entire Golden Crow 9 realms, there was only a handful of invincible divine masters. Any one of them had an extremely high status, and even the Undying Sage would not look down on an invincible divine master. After all, the various realms of the Golden Crow 9 realms had long agreed. Nevertheless, there were some things that the Undying Sage could not do personally, and he could only rely on the invincible divine master under him. Therefore, even the immortal saint would be very polite to these invincible divine masters under normal circumstances. But now, everyone knew why Master Chu came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. However, the Realm Lord Tian Chu had arranged for an invincible divine master to accompany him showed how much the Realm Lord pampered him. At the same time that Master Chu arrived, two figures flew over from the void in the distance. These two figures were more high-profile than the others. Most of the experts who came to watch the ceremony, such as Jian Wu Shuang, first rushed to the foot of the mountain and then walked up the stairs step by step. However, these two people did not have any scruples. They landed directly in front of the mountain gate. One of them was old, and the other was young. The young man was handsome and elegant, and the aura he emitted was also powerful. Although he had not reached the level of invincible divine master, he was definitely solid among the peak great divine masters. He was very close to invincible divine master. As for the older man next to him, he was even more impressive. The older man was dressed in a black robe. His face was cold, and his eyes were extremely turbid. There was no aura emanating from his body. Yet, at first glance, he looked like an ordinary older man. However, seeing the black-robed older man, not only the experts present, even Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank, because he felt tremendous pressure from the elder. With his current strength, the elder's identity was beyond doubt. Immortal Saint, the black-robed elder, was a genuine immortal saint. The Star Point Pavilion is from the Star Point Pavilion. The leader was the young master of the Star Point Pavilion, Qi Ming. It was said that he was an out-and-out genius. In the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, except for the young phoenix and hidden dragon of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, he was the most talented. In addition, Qi Ming seemed to be one of the admirers of the young phoenix. Thanks, both young Master Chu and Qi Ming are the pursuers of the young phoenix. So now, these two people actually came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion at the same time. This is really interesting. Many people in the surroundings revealed excited expressions and were waiting to watch the show. As expected, Qi Ming appeared in front of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's mountain gate. His gaze swept over and soon froze on young Master Chu. Isn't this young Master Chu? You also came to Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and coincidentally bumped into me. It's quite a coincidence. Qi Ming smiled, but there was a hint of amusement on his face. Humph, you and I came to watch the ceremony. We just happened to bump into each other. So what's there to be a coincidence? Young Master Chu snorted coldly, but there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Jian Wushuang could see that there was some fear in his eyes. Chapter 2857. Chu sure it was very normal. Qi Ming was the young pavilion master of one of the 4-star pavilions, and his strength was infinitely close to that of an invincible, reverent god. Whether it was in terms of identity or his own strength, he was slightly stronger than young Master Chu. After comparing the two of them, young Master Chu definitely could not compare to that of Xian Ming. "Ha, young Master Chu, I heard that you went to Firecloud Castle not long ago and wanted to ask Lord Mo to refine a special treasure for you. That special treasure should be for young Phoenix, right?" Qi Ming said with a strange smile. "It has nothing to do with you, right?" Young Master Chu said in a low voice. Qi Ming raised his eyebrows, but did not ask any more questions. Instead, he walked directly into the mountain gate. The experts in front of the mountain gate immediately went up to welcome him. Jian Wushuang watched the scene from the front to the back and smiled playfully. The young phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is really attractive. The young master of Realm Lord Tianchu and the young master of the Star Pavilion is both her suitors. Jian Wushuang did not linger and directly walked into the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. As soon as he entered the pavilion, someone immediately led him to a huge martial arts practice field. The martial arts practice field was boundless and was the place where the disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion usually competed. This time, the Dragon Phoenix list was held here. On the martial arts practice field, a large number of experts stood there. These experts came from all over the world. There are a lot of people. Jian Wushuang smiled. He also noticed that most of the people who came to Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to attend the ceremony were not weak. At least, more than 90% of the experts in the martial arts practice field were experts above the great divine master level. Only a few divine masters were involved. However, most of the divine masters here had a certain background. It could be said that this ceremony was an extremely high-end event in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It would take some time before the Dragon Phoenix list was officially opened. Jian Wushuang found a random corner and waited there quietly. However, not far from him, a black-clothed girl with a slightly evil face opened her eyes wide and looked at the crowd in front of her. There are so many people, and most of them are experts at the great divine master level. There must be hundreds of great divine master level experts here, right? The black-clothed girl exclaimed in surprise. There are true. Beside the black-clothed girl, a burly man carrying a dark golden stone staff on his back nodded slightly. The opening of the Dragon Phoenix ranking has an extraordinary meaning to our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. This time, Lord Pavilion Master has specially released the news long ago and sent out invitations widely. Experts from various forces in the Golden Crow 9 realms will mostly give our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion face, so there will naturally be many people who will come to watch the ceremony. Junior Sister Gu, today's ceremony will be held in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. It represents the face of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Pavilion Master has specially instructed us to follow the rules. You must not cause trouble here. The burly man warned again. Don't worry, Senior Brother Tianxin. I know what to do. The black-clothed girl smiled, but her eyes kept wandering around. Suddenly, the black-robed girl's expression changed. Senior Brother Skyheart, quickly look over there. Look at that person. The black-robed girl pointed in a direction. The burly man immediately looked over and saw a young man dressed in golden robes. When he saw the golden-robed young man, the burly man's pupils constricted. It's him. He actually came to participate in this ceremony? The burly man muttered, but the black-clothed girl did not say anything and directly ran toward him. Junior Sister. The burly man was shocked and immediately followed her. The two soon appeared in front of the golden-robed young man, who was surprisingly Jian Wushuang. Sword 1. The black-clothed girl called out, "Oh, it's you too." Jian Wushuang turned his head and looked at the two. Jian Wushuang knew both of them, and he had interacted with them many times, especially the black-clothed girl. He first interacted with the black-clothed girl, Demoness Gu. Later, he met her again in the Crimson Rock Castle Sacred Palace. At that time, the burly man, Tian Xian, was also with him. At that time, they had a gambling match. In the end, Jian Wushuang won a big victory and obtained a lot of sacred elixirs. Now, he had just arrived at the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and met with Demoness Gu and Tian Xian again. Sword 1, long time no see. Tian Xian gave Jian Wushuang a deep look. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang had deliberately revealed his divine power aura before entering the mountain gate. However, after entering the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, he had completely restrained his divine power aura. Tian Xian could not tell Jian Wushuang's specific realm at all. However, in Tian Xin's opinion, since Jian Wushuang was able to attend the ceremony, his strength must not be much weaker. Sword 1, how dare you to come to my Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? The black-clothed girl, Demoness Gu, stared at Jian Wushuang angrily. I don't have any great enmity with your Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The only thing that I have ever crossed paths with in the gambling match with you. However, it was a fair match after all, and both sides are willing to admit defeat. Your disciples would not be so stingy as to hold a grudge against me, right? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Demoness Gu was anxious, but she did not know how to say it. It was Tian Xian who said, Mr. Sword 1, don't misunderstand. A guest is a guest. Not to mention that you don't have any enmity with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Even if there is, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would never attack its own guest today. That's good. Jian Wushuang nodded in satisfaction. But at this moment, Junior Sister Gu, Junior Brother Tianxin, what are you two doing? A bright voice suddenly sounded. Then, a purple-haired, handsome young man floated over. This purple-haired, handsome young man was like a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This is the purple-haired, handsome young man looked at Jian Wushuang. Senior Brother Chu Shi, you came at the right time. This is the same senior Brother Tian Xian who suffered a loss when he went to the Pill Sun's sacred world with this sword. He lost a lot of sacred elixirs and even lost a lot of faces. Today, you have to help us vent our anger by using sword principle again. Demoness Gu immediately said, Oh, you bullied my junior sister in the Pill Sun sacred world. The purple-haired, handsome young man Chi Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. Ha! It's just a fair fight. I didn't bully her, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Really? Chu Shi's eyes turned slightly cold. Senior Brother Chu Shi, Tian Xian, who was beside him, was a little anxious. Don't worry. Since it's the day that the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion opens the Dragon Phoenix list, I naturally want fight in front of all the experts. However, after the ceremony is over, Sword 1, do you have the guts to fight with me? If you win, it'll give you 5,000 sacred elixirs. As for your loss, you don't have to pay anything. Just take it as me venting my anger for my junior sister. How about it? Chapter 2858. Was breathtakingly beautiful Chu Shi looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile, but there was absolute confidence between his brows. He did have the right to be confident. After all, he was a genuine peak divine master, and his talent was extremely high, his comprehension of the rules, and Tao was extremely strong. In addition, there were some unique secretaries in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. His battle strength was definitely at the top among the divine masters. Even if he met an ordinary, invincible divine master, he could try to fight him. With such strength, he naturally would not care about Jian Wushuang. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly in his heart, but he nodded on the surface. Sure. Well, it'll wait for you after the ceremony. Chu Shi revealed a playful smile. As for Demoness Gu, she gloated at Jian Wushuang and said, Sword 1, you're really brave to accept the challenge. Just you wait, you'll suffer." With a snort, Chu Shi, Demonis Gu, and Tian Xian left. Jian Wushuang just shook his head and smiled, but he did not care at all. As time passed, more and more experts came to the martial arts practice field. At first, only a few great divine masters appeared on the martial arts practice field, but as time passed, the immortal saints who came to attend the ceremony also arrived. When the ceremony was about to begin, there were already 7 immortal saints gathered on the martial arts practice field. Among the 7 immortal saints, 2 came from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and one of them was the current pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Long Xingzi. The Heaven Immortal Pavilion and Thundercloud Pavilion were on par with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion in terms of both strength and status. This time, each of them sent an immortal saint to participate. The Star Point Pavilion also sent an immortal saint, and this immortal saint came together with the young pavilion master, Qi Ming. In addition, the true overlord of the Golden Crow 9 realms, Lord Bone Emperor, although he did not personally come, he still sent an immortal saint under his command to attend the ceremony. The last immortal saint was a realm lord of a region. This realm lord just happened to have nothing to do, so he came personally to attend the ceremony. The realm lords of other regions mostly sent their experts to attend the ceremony, but they did not attend in person. In these regions, experts from the Pill Sun's sacred world and the Heavenly Void world also came. Yin Suer, who was the master of the Pill Sun's sacred world, had sent Yun Shan, who was in seclusion because she had recently obtained a Saint Ascension elixir from Jian Wushuang. The experts from the Heavenly Void Palace had arrived. They were Jian Wushuang's acquaintances. Marquis of 3 Yin was the first invincible divine master to fight with Jian Wushuang. He was also the right-hand man of the master of the Heavenly Void Palace. Marquis of 3 Yin had come to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to observe the ceremony. Marquis of 3 Yin had also noticed Jian Wushuang's presence. Sword 1. The Marquis of 3 Yin glared at Jian Wushuang, but he did not move. He knew very well that Jian Wushuang's strength was no weaker than his. In the entire Heavenly Void world, unless the master of the Heavenly Void Temple came, no one could do anything to Jian Wushuang. Therefore, no matter how angry he was at Jian Wushuang, no matter how much he wanted to kill Jian Wushuang, he could do nothing to Jian Wushuang. On the martial arts practice field, almost all the experts had arrived. At this moment, in the nearby void, surrounded by nearly 10 female disciples, a woman slowly walked over. "She's coming, she's coming." With the appearance of the woman, the entire martial arts practice field instantly became noisy. Countless experts raised their heads and looked in that direction, and most of their eyes were burning. The young phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the publicly acknowledged #1 genius of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Her fame was simply too great, and as the #1 genius, she also had another identity, and that was the #1 beauty of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. If she was just the #1 genius, although she would also attract a lot of attention, she definitely would not attract so much attention to the experts present. However, the #1 beauty was different. On the martial arts practice field, the experts from various realms and forces all wanted to know how beautiful the #1 beauty of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow was. What did she have to deserve the title of #1 beauty? Everyone was eagerly waiting to see the true face of this young phoenix. Senior Sister Lung. Demoness Gu stood in the middle of the crowd, a hint of excitement in her eyes. But more than that, she was filled with admiration. Beside her, Chu Shi and Tian Xian were incomparably fanatical. They were both heaven's favored children of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and naturally, they had seen the young phoenix before. It was because they had seen it that they were impressed. Within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, there were too many people who viewed the young phoenix as a goddess, and there were too many people who adored and pursued her. Chu Shi and Tian Xian were only two of them. However, they knew that, with their status, they were not worthy of the young phoenix. Hence, they could only watch from afar. The two of them were like this, while Xianming and young Master Chu, who was publicly pursuing the young phoenix, were burning with passion. Countless gazes and everyone's attention were focused on the young phoenix. As the woman slowly walked over, her figure and appearance finally appeared in front of everyone. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, and her clothes were inlaid with the image of a phoenix. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were like a pool of clear water. She had an elegant temperament, causing people to be stunned, ashamed of their inferiority, and not dare to desecrate her. However, that cold and arrogant spirit had a soul-captivating aura, causing people to be unable to not be mesmerized. Looking at her face again, beautiful, so beautiful that it was suffocating, so beautiful that it was impossible to describe her with words. It was as if there was no way to describe this woman's appearance, even if she was as beautiful as a celestial being. However, everyone who saw her face felt their hearts tremble. Such an incredible appearance, coupled with that cold and arrogant temperament that made people not dare to desecrate her. The countless cultivators present were all impressed by her appearance. Good fellow, I've long heard that the young phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is the #1 beauty in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Seeing her today is indeed extraordinary. This old man has experienced many storms to become the undying sage. But even so, when this old man saw this young phoenix, his heart actually felt a trace of palpitations. Shame, truly shameful. The undying sage, under the Bone Emperor's command, sighed softly. Of course, although this immortal saint's words were somewhat exaggerated, it was enough to fully explain the beauty of the young phoenix. On the martial arts practice field, everyone was stunned. Even if it was the same, the reason why he was stunned was not that he was shocked by the young phoenix's beautiful face. It was because of that face. He was too familiar with it. Chapter 2859. See you again. This beautiful face, which could not be described with words, had appeared in Jian Wushuang's mind countless times, making him yearn for it day and night. But now, this face appeared in front of him with this identity. Shuang air, it's Shuang air. Jian Wushuang was roaring in his heart, and his whole body was trembling crazily. He looked at the peerless beauty who had become the focus of the world, but his eyes were filled with unprecedented ecstasy. He had waited for this ecstasy for too long, and he had longed for it for too long. Lung Rushuang, his wife. Not only did she look exactly the same, but the extremely cold aura on her body was also exactly the same. Jian Wushuang was sure of her just by looking at her. The woman in front of him was the recognized #1 genius and beauty of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. She was his wife, Lung Rushuang. He could not be wrong. Shuang air, I've finally found you again. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. His fingertips were bleeding, but he was very excited. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. It was in his previous life, a long, long time ago. Lung Rushuang had left after his wedding night in the Green Fire world. From then on, he had been waiting, but he was looking for a chance to meet Lung Rushuang again. But after nearly 100,000 years, all he found was the body occupied by Lung Rushuang. As for Lung Rushuang's soul, it had been sleeping for a long time. She had never met him. Even when both of them were sent into reincarnation by his master Xian Yi, he had never met Lung Rushuang. Until now, in this life, in the absolute beginning divine realm, he had finally met Lung Rushuang again. He was so excited that he wanted to rush up and hug Lung Rushuang. However, his reason calmed him down. He stood in the crowd and stood in a corner, quietly looking at the peerless beauty who had become the focus of countless experts. Deep in his heart, he was full of thoughts. According to what Bai Yen told me, the young phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has been cultivating for less than 200 years, which means she is less than 200 years old, just like me. Apparently, Shuang Air and I entered the reincarnation passage and reincarnated together. However, I was born in the Pill Sun's sacred world, while Shuang Air was born in another place. But why is Shuang Air so talented? This was what Jian Wushuang was most puzzled about. In my previous life, although Shuang Air had a body of destiny, her body of destiny was occupied by Lung Rushua. She only retained a soul. Even after she entered the reincarnation passage, she could only cultivate normally like an ordinary cultivator. But in fact, her talent is so high that it's enough to scare people to death. Lung Rushuang's talent in this life was too high. Although Jian Wushuang was a perfect chaotic creature with unlimited potential, he was inferior to Lung Rushuang in terms of the comprehension of rules. However, Lung Rushuang had been in a deep sleep in her previous life and was not qualified to touch the power of rules. Logically, her cultivation speed should not be so fast, unless Jian Wushuang had already thought of a possibility. This possibility came from his master Xian Yi. It was Master who sent Shuang Air's soul and mine into the reincarnation passage, which means that everything is under Master's control. Moreover, the Master has deliberately left a backup plan in the primordial divine realm. I'm afraid that Shuang Air's incredible talent in rules is also related to Master. It's very likely that Master used some special means. Jian Wushuang thought. In his opinion, only his master Xian Yi could make Lung Rushuang's talent change so much. No matter what, it's a good thing that Shuang Air is talented, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lung Rushuang had arrived at the martial arts practice field. Lung Air, come and sit here. Among the two immortal saints of Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Elder Qin, the easygoing woman, besides the pavilion master Long Xingzi, said with a smile, "Yes, master." Lung Rushuang nodded slightly. Then she landed beside Elder Qin and sat down on a futon. At this moment, all the experts present let out a sigh of relief, but the fervor in their hearts did not diminish in the slightest. Everyone! Long Xingzi stood up, and his grand voice echoed throughout the entire martial arts practice field. Welcome, everyone, to take time out of your busy schedules to come to our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to observe the ceremony. This old man is extremely grateful. Pavilion Master Long, let's not talk about such pleasantries. We are here for the Dragon Phoenix ranking. Open the ranking quickly. I am very curious about the rank of this young phoenix in the Dragon Phoenix ranking. It was the immortal saint from the Thundercloud Pavilion who spoke. This immortal saint was tall and sturdy, and his aura was extremely violent. It was obvious that he was an impatient person with a very bad temper. Haha, that's right. If that's the case, then let's begin. Let's invite the Dragon Phoenix list. Long Xingzi waved his hand, and a special fluctuation spread out. In an instant, Wang, the void, shook violently, and a spiral tunnel appeared out of thin air in the void above the huge martial arts practice field. The spiral tunnel was only about 10 feet wide at first, but as the tunnel continued to expand, it reached 100 feet wide in the blink of an eye, and it was still expanding rapidly. At this moment, roar, a dragon's roar, and a phoenix's cry suddenly reverberated throughout the entire Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. In front of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's mountain gate, the two towering golden dragons and the fire phoenix sculptures directly came to life. The golden dragons emitted an endless golden light as they stepped on the 7-colored, auspicious clouds. Meanwhile, the fire phoenix released flames that filled the sky, causing the sky to turn red. The golden dragon and the fire phoenix rushed over at the same time and appeared under the enormous spiral passageway. Under the simultaneous cries of the dragon and the phoenix, an ancient and enormous scroll slowly descended from the enormous spiral passageway. This scroll was originally open, and as the scroll descended from the passageway, the contents of the scroll slowly appeared before everyone. From the beginning, it was the 3 large golden words Dragon Phoenix ranking. These 3 words contained an endless might that was not inferior to the might of an undying saint. They intimidated everything below. The experts who were able to attend the ceremony were all-powerful, and there were many experts present. However, they were able to easily withstand the might of these 3 large golden words. Not long after the 3 words Dragon and Phoenix ranking, the first name appeared: Ancient Saint. Upon seeing this name, many people in the martial arts practice field who knew about it immediately revealed a look of reverence. This was especially so for the few undying sages on the field. They were all extremely respectful.